I have a lot to tell you. Yesterday, I did not actually broadcast for some interesting news. Once again, pre-watch Piker struck again. I remember I was joking about like what I foresaw would potentially happen as I entered the United States of America. And that thing that I foresaw happening actually ended up happening. And I'm obviously going to talk about it really quickly. But I guess before I do that, I should probably blast off that I'm live. Hasanabi, thank you for the 50 gifted. For those of you who don't know, I was detained by Customs and Border Patrol. I was tactically ascertained and engaged in a kinetic situation where I was kinetically moved into a detention center inside of the O'Hare Airport, which I will tell you all about in a second. Oh man, didn't pass the ocular pat down. I believe it was before the ocular pat down. It's the flight manifest that they get ahead of time. They knew who I was, and they were ready to receive me. Let's just say, and it wasn't a very warm welcome. So what's happening? What's happening in Chicago? What the fuck was that? You know, this is only my second time coming back here. And the first time I was here for the DNC got kicked out. Second time I couldn't even enter the state almost. Okay. But yeah, I'll tell you all about it. Let me just blast off real quick because there's so much news to cover. I'm in Chirac talking about my CBP detention, Trump, China trade deals, Trump sidestepping Israel on releasing U.S. POW on his Mideast tour, and so much and much more. Later, I will head to Uni of Chicago to do a talk with Ested Herndon. Chicago blast off meme. Oh, you got a good one? Let me see. Okay, I like that one. That's good. Herndon, get in now. Okay, we have so much, dude. It's like live streamed talk with Ested Herndon. Get in now. There is an incredible amount of stuff happening in the world of Hasanabi Piker. And yeah, I unfortunately was not there to participate in Fear End this week. They shot it without me while I was in France. Vive la France. I do be flying pretty often and have been detained by customs. They just Google your ass while they make you wait, dickheads. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. You're not wrong, chatter. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting experience. Let me tell you, okay? Let me tell you, you're looking rather angelic today. What is this guy saying? Hassan, my favorite terrorist supporter. He tried to bring a bomb. Deserved actual terrorist. Deserved actual terrorist. Tried to bring a bomb. Deserved actual terrorist. Chatter, there's nothing funnier than fantasizing that I actually brought a bomb to O'Hare Airport and then they just let me go. Like in your mind, you think it's unfathomable that like someone who is a political commentator would get fucking apprehended for no reason and will like simply be harassed specifically to create a chilling effect on speech. So you think that is ridiculous, and I understand why you would think that's ridiculous. So you have to turn around and fantasize that I brought a bomb to the fucking airport and I'm a terrorist. Except, is that Tectone? Yeah. Except also in that same fantasy, woke ass Customs and Border Patrol actually let me go after I brought a bomb in your assessment. You know? Chicago remembers the good Kanye and cries about the bad Kanye. Yeah. So, a lot going on in the world, okay? We'll get to it right now. Did you touch the bean? No, man, I haven't done shit. I actually spent last night with Ested, hung out with him, went to some bars and you know, hung out in the city for a little bit, had a couple drinks, but that's it. That's all I did yesterday. I landed, I got in, I got detained. It was way too late for me to stream. And so I was like, fuck it, I'm not going to stream. And I took a shower. I went out to the bars. And that's it. That's all I did in Chicago so far. I did not lick the bean. I didn't touch the bean. I didn't have time to flick the bean. What bars you go to? Nothing good. Start off the story at Charles de Gaulle, 3 hours, man. Yeah, that's where I'm going to start. I thought I saw your ass at a bar. Maybe. I did get recognized a bunch. I also got recognized while I was walking out of the fucking ICE detention. But I don't think the two Hasanabi heads that recognized me had any idea that I was like walking out with an ICE agent. They just saw me. They just saw me walk out. And they were like, "Oh my God, Hassan!" Little did they know I was actually walking out of ICE detainment. But yeah, the feds, dude, they're preying on my downfall. Hold on. Hello? Yes. No, it's fine. You can cancel that then. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. All right, bye. Yeah, that was the feds. Mushy mushy. No, business deals. No, they just don't have sugar-free Red Bull. Anyway, so, all right, where do I begin? Our story begins at Paris's premier international airport, Charles de Gaulle. Okay? Now, normally I'm an experienced traveler, as some of you may know. I'm somewhat of an experienced traveler, and usually as an experienced traveler, I like to get to the Charles de Gaulle airport early because I know, no disrespect to France, I love the country, but Charles de Gaulle airport is one of the worst in Europe. It's a major hub, but unfortunately, due to, I think, like a lack of interest from the managers of any of these companies, where they just refuse to hire additional people. And I feel like in France, you just have to always hire more people because everyone is doing work very slowly. Okay? It's just the pace that you have to adjust to, and therefore you have to hire more people. There's always like work stoppages and stuff like that. And these guys, the unions are relatively powerful, but the corporate overlords will literally punish travelers instead of meeting the actual demands of labor unions there. So I've been in a situation where I've been like stuck in France and stuff. Like I had to do crazy maneuvering to get out. So I knew that. And because I knew that, I was like, I'll go 3 hours early. It's something that I never do. Usually I'm actually very slow. But this time I was like, I'll go 3 hours early and everything will be fine. I was already worried that I was going to have issues coming into the country. I had joked about it already. So I was like, at least on the one side, like leaving the country of France will not be that big of a problem. And boy, was I wrong. Okay. Boy, was I wrong. So I hit the triple Monty. I had like a generational run. There was massive traffic going in. When you actually drive into the airport, the person that's dropping you off has to get a gate ticket at the gate. The ticket actually didn't work. Like, so we were stuck in traffic with like other cars behind us. Like my driver had to get out and be like, and wave people away from the gate so that we could actually get to a gate that worked, all this stuff. Right. And I'm like, oh brother, here we go. Walk in. I'm flying business, so like I have sky priority, so I'm thinking like, oh, at least I'll be able to get my luggage in on time. Barely made it to the check-in. Okay. There was already issues with the check-in. Once I got through the check-in, I got hit at every single step. There's an automatic passport processor where you just kind of step into this room and then boop, doors open, you walk in, right? I wait in line. There's only one. None of the machines are working. Finally, I get to the machine that is working, and the machine stops working. It just won't take my passport. It won't take my fucking passport. I was like, oh, here we go. So I had to go to an actual officer to allow me to, to let me through so I could get in. Then I got stuck behind classic old lady. Okay, old lady with a lot of bags, with a lot of fluids. So then like she's taking her fluids out and like doing all this stuff at the security gate. I'm stuck behind this person. I already took out all my electronics and stuff. But of course, lo and behold, boom, I get stopped at security after this old lady as well. The old lady with the bags of fluids, classic. She obviously was stopped. Okay, she had to get GSR swabbed, all this shit. And then, of course, I also got stopped, had to get GSR swabbed, all of this shit, because I have electronics on me. And, I stopped there. Generational 3-hour run at Charles de Gaulle. And then afterwards, I get into the flight and I'm like, all right, finally. The flight was actually fantastic. I slept the entire time. I slept like a goddamn baby, slept the entire time, didn't even eat on the flight, which is crazy. There's never been a moment where it was like an 8-hour to 9-hour flight and I didn't even eat. I slept the entire time on the flight. Finally get into the United States of America. And at which point I'm like, all right, let's do it. I got global entry. This is going to be my first ever global entry entrance. Hopefully this will go smoothly. Okay. Oops, hold on. My room service is here. My cold brew is here. 1 second. Hold on. Where was I? So it's the worst cold brew of my life. Okay. It is what it is. So global entry, first time ever. Okay. First time ever getting into global entry. I got it after my brother yelled at me over and over again, telling me you gotta get global entry, whatever. Right. I get to the global entry line and they're processing everybody expeditiously. You walk up, boom. You walk up immediately. They take your photo of your face and you walk in and there's a customs person there, cop there, just basically waves you. Okay. And they do that over and over again. It's to me, take a photo, boom, walk in instantly. The Customs and Border Patrol agent goes, step aside, sir. I was like, here we fucking go. All right. She goes, step aside, sir. An agent will come in and take you to another location. I was like, is that proper protocol? It's like, sometimes it happens. And I was like, okay. And I knew at that point, I was like, okay, I'm texting like family. I'm like, this is happening. I'm texting my manager. You know, I was basically I got Lolo on. I was like, listen, you know, I'm going in. All right. I'm freaking going in. It's who knows how long this will take? Who knows what will happen? And I had already heard like horror stories from people. There was like that one girl on TikTok that had talked about this. And I thought to myself, all right, it's done. It's happening to me as well. It is what it is. You know, M is real high. I'm about to say M is real high multiple times to get these guys off my back. So I'm waiting in the corner. This Latina ICE agent comes up, picks me up, takes me to this detention center. I sit down, fluorescent light bulbs, the whole nine. Okay. They have benches in the back of O'Hare Airport where there's like a detention area. Okay. There's a detention area. I'm sitting there. There's like a bunch of terrified families. Okay. There's an old lady in a wheelchair. There's like a mom and daughter behind me. There's some like random dude in front of me. And the way it works is there's a back door, right? And they take your passport, they go to the back door. You don't know what the hell's going on in there, but they sometimes come out and they just say someone's name with their passport in their hands and they go, you're clear to leave. So they basically, when they bring you to the detention area, they, I guess, do some kind of surveillance on your background to figure out if you are, if you're going to get harassed even further or if this level of harassment is fine. Okay. And I asked and I looked around at all the passports that people had to see if there were other American citizens. And lo and behold, at least in the area that I was at, I was the only American citizen. There was another guy that actually had an American passport as well. But like, because I asked the terrified family behind me, I was like, hey guys, if you don't mind me asking, like, do you guys have an American passport? They were like, no. So it turns out it's just they're terrifying the shit out of mostly non-American citizens. Okay. But apparently they're also interested in trying to terrify American citizens as well. So they're just like coming in and out. They get this lady in a wheelchair out of there, which I thought was so insane. Old lady in a fucking wheelchair is in the ICE detention area, and they come out with their passport and they're like, here, you can leave. Okay. So that's one thing, right? Like I've had secondary searches and stuff done to me before. I've had the think it's called the quadruple S. Like they put the SSSS on your boarding pass, and you always get checked randomly when you get hit with that. Like that's happened to me a lot in the past. I get GSR swabbed all the time. That stuff is normal. I've experienced that quite a bit. Okay. But this time I didn't even have the quadruple S on my boarding pass. So I was like, all right, it's probably fine. So I wait. Finally, this agent comes out, says, Hassan Piker. I'm like, that's me. Coming with me. I'm like, oh, brother, here we go. They take me to this back room. Okay. And the back room is not great. Everything, the back room is designed in the most hostile way I've ever been inside of a room. The vibes are really fucked back there. Everything is fluorescent light bulb, obviously, but they had these 2 seats that were firmly planted into the ground. Okay. They were complete metal. They were like tiny stools, very uncomfortable, with like braces on the side so you can handcuff someone to them. Okay. And there was also a seat for like a lawyer. So I sat down on the lawyer seat on the corner to establish dominance because I've watched too many JCS interrogation videos and I knew I had to have command over the room. So I didn't sit in the cuck chair. Instead, I sat in the lawyer chair and we got to talking. And let me tell you, folks, the TikTokers that talked about being detained, they were right. It was an insane fucking situation. So it's very obvious that they knew exactly who the fuck I was. It's very obvious that they knew how to like navigate the conversation. And it was a really, really interesting conversation that took place. It was very cordial. Okay. It was very cordial, which I noticed. I thought it was strange how cordial it was because I've had run-ins with like cops in the past. I've had run-ins with feds in the past. Well, I guess the FBI was very cordial as well when I had some talks with them in the past. But overall, I was not expecting CBP agents to be cordial. I will say that. Okay. Now, having said that, the entire process is supposed to be intimidating. So it's fucking bullshit. Like, suck my dick, cordial or whatever. Okay. I think they were being cordial because they wanted me to say something that was incriminating and say something that was enough to justify further detention from that point on. And let me tell you, they certainly did do that. So he knew exactly who the fuck I was, but he was basically like broaching the conversation in a way where it was like free flowing, where in the process of discovery, he was adding on additional talking points. He always made it seem as though he was asking certain things that after discovering in the process of that conversation, he would ask additional questions. So, you know, he's like, oh, what are you doing in Chicago? And I was very revealing. I was like, well, I was in France because I want to take my family out for Mother's Day to France, but I had to come back early from France, even though today is technically Mother's Day, because I have a speaking engagement at University of Chicago. And he was like, oh, what kind of speaking engagement? It's like, oh, I don't know, some like journalism school stuff. And he's like, oh, well, since you mentioned that, he kept saying, oh, well, since you mentioned that, what do you do as a job? And I was like, I'm a Twitch streamer. And he's like, well, since you mentioned that you were a Twitch streamer, what kind of things do you stream about? And at first I was like, do I just tell him I play video games? Because I don't think this motherfucker's going to believe me if I say I just play video games to him, right? So I was just like, yeah, I play video games, but I also do current events, sometimes drama, internet. And he's like, oh, do you talk about, since you mentioned that, you talk about the things that you talk about, do you talk about the news? And I was like, yeah, I talk about the news. And he kept saying, okay, so when you talk about the news, do you talk about the war? And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, do you talk about Trump? And that was the first time where I was like, what the fuck is this question? Like, I literally straight up told him, I was like, why are you asking me this? Like, I was like, what does this have to do with anything? And it was interesting because the dude asked so many so many insane questions, none of which is illegal, by the way. I just need you to understand nothing I have done thus far is illegal, as nothing I've done online is illegal as of now, if that makes sense. Now, laws may change in the future and they might actually start prosecuting speech, which I do fear is the goal of this administration. But so far, everything I've done is fully protected under the First Amendment. Okay? And none of these questions are actually valid questions to ask. But I was entertaining it because I didn't want to present it as being difficult because I didn't want to extend the tension. And two, I actually wanted to see how far I could take it. Maybe it was fucked up of me to do that. Maybe it was not appropriate for me to do that, to play fast and loose with a person that has complete control over my life in that very moment. But I wanted to see like what they were trying to get away, like what they were trying to take from this conversation. And so, you know, instead of just pleading the fifth as I'm supposed to do in situations like this, I just kept giving him answers. And there were definitely areas where I was very revealing about my position, knowing full well that they know exactly what they're looking for. I saw no reason to hold back on certain things. So I said, I don't like Trump. I was like, what are you going to do? It's protected by the First Amendment. I don't like Trump. Yes. Right? Like, I was like, I'm not fond of him. I don't like him. He said he was going to end the wars. He hasn't ended the wars. What the fuck is up with that? You know? And the guy actually was very sympathetic. The agent was very sympathetic. And I don't know if it was like a JCS style interrogation technique to come across as sympathetic to like invoke some kind of positive feelings out of me in an effort to like get me to reveal something maybe that'll trip me up, or because he just genuinely was sympathetic and he had the vibes of someone who was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, right? But he was like, listen, I'm Iraqi, so I know. And let me tell you, I do think that him being Iraqi played a big role in this, because if he wasn't, there was a lot of fucking Redditor ass white boys that are at Customs and Border Patrol at O'Hare Airport. I saw them walk by. There was a dude who looked like he was like 25 max, but he was balding. And I knew immediately, if that motherfucker's my agent, I'm screwed. I'm going to CCOT. This dude is going to literally fucking cook me. So I got a little lucky. All right. I will admit. So basically, I think the reason why they sent the Iraqi CBP agent is because they bracket you into different categories. For me, they wanted to conduct an investigation about my involvement with Hamas and my involvement with the Houthis and they suspected my involvement with Hezbollah. Straight up. That's literally what this conversation was about. And it's not even a joke. Like they straight up fucking tried to get something out of me that I think they could use to basically detain me permanently, which is insane, because there is no direct connection or direct involvement. So I'll say this much. So we're talking. You know, I'm telling him like, oh, I'm Chicago. I'm going to be speaking there for the journalism school. I told him like, you know, I don't like Donald Trump. And I was like, so why are you guys doing this? And he's like, oh, it's just like routine. It's a routine process. I was like, it doesn't feel too routine. And basically my big fear from the entire situation was like, if they were to ask for my phone, not that there's anything incriminating on my phone, but I don't want the fucking federal government inside of my phone beyond all of the times where they probably have been engaging in like warrantless surveillance on my phone or whatever the fuck. I don't like, it's not your business. You know what I mean? It's none of your fucking business. Like it's a goddamn free country. Like there's privacy laws for this kind of shit. Right. So, for those of you who don't know, by the way, they can't actually unlock your phone, but if you have biometrics on your phone, they could technically use that and put the phone to your face and unlock it that way. Hold on. Let me fix this. Let me fix the banner. So just so you know, they could technically do that. Okay. They could technically do that, but there's a trick. Either you get a burner phone when you're traveling internationally, or if you have your regular phone, you can just do a passcode by either canceling biometrics, or if you forgot to do so, if you forgot to cancel biometrics like your Face ID, what you can do is click it 5 times. If you click hold 5 times in a row, it will actually disable Face ID, and it will force you to put your passcode in. And because there are laws against like the agents not being able to force you to put your passcode in, they can't actually access your phone like that. Now, there's different methods of how they can access your phone. From what I understand, they can also put it on a computer and just like plug it into a machine, and the machine just basically takes all of the information in your phone. So it is what it is. I don't know if you can actually do that if your phone is on, but I was thinking about all these things. I had already unlocked the biometrics, like I disallowed biometrics, and it's a Faraday cage once you get into the detention center anyway, so you can't actually send any fucking text messages once you're in there. It's there's no access to the internet. But I'm sitting there and they're asking me about Trump. They're asking me about like Hamas, and he kept saying stuff. He kept saying stuff like, do you like Hamas? Like, do you support Hamas? Do you think Hamas is a resistance group? Do you think Hamas is a terrorist group or a resistance group? Like, he just kept asking over and over again, right? And I kept repeating the same statement over and over again. I kept saying, I kept saying a couple different things. One, in terms of like Israel and all the wars, I was like, I'm on the side of civilians. I want the endless bloodshed to end. I am a pacifist. I want wars to end. I just kept repeating that over and over again. Every single time he asked me a question, I just kept repeating that. And every single time he asked me a question, a leading question about Hamas, I kept saying, the United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. The United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. So, like, he just kept asking me over and over again, like Hamas, Houthis, all this shit, trying to be like, oh, do you support them? Do you like them? Like, what do you think about them? Which I thought was fucking insane, because the reality of the matter is, okay, up until this very moment, if you were to say, as an American citizen, you stand 10 toes down with Hamas, or you stand 10 toes down with the Houthis or whatever the fuck, they can't deny you entry into the country for that shit. But I don't know what the fuck they're trying to do. So I was like, I'm not going to go beyond it. I'm not going to go beyond just like reiterating over and over again. The American government's position is that Hamas is a terrorist organization. But then he just kept asking me about the Houthis. And at that point, I was like, listen, he's like, well, do you agree with the terrorist designation for the Houthis? And I said, I'm of the Brookings Institute mindset that in 2020, when Donald Trump initially designated the Houthis as a terror organization, that was a major mistake. I talk about these issues from an academic context with humanitarian rights organizations and with academics and with journalists. As a matter of fact, this is perfectly this is, you know, completely protected under First Amendment laws. And therefore, you know, I don't understand what the reason why we're having this conversation is. And I kept saying that over and over again, at which point he just like kind of gave up. But what I thought was really interesting was, and I even followed it up with like, I call balls and strikes, and you know, there are things that Trump has done that I actually agree with, and I'm not shy about saying those things, even though initially he said he was going to end all these wars. He hasn't done so. I think these wars are unnecessary. They're costly, and a lot of civilians die in the process. I don't think it's appropriate. I think it's very inappropriate. And it must end, right? Like that's my position. But I do think that Trump did a good thing where he implemented a ceasefire with the Houthis. So when he does stuff like that, when I agree with him, I tell him what's what. Like I say it. When I agree with Trump in a decision, I'm open about it, right? So I explained that to him, and I just yapped away over and over and over again. And what I found to be particularly interesting was in the first half of the conversation, it was just like basically a fact-finding mission, right? Try to get me to say something that I think would be of interest. In the second part of the conversation, there were some real actionable items that he presented that depending on how I answer those questions, like I'm fucking going to jail. Because the first stuff was just illegal for him to ask me those questions and completely like completely idiotic and ridiculous. And I think they did it because they know who the fuck I am, and they wanted to put the fear of God into me, not knowing that I'm a stubborn piece of shit, and that's not going to work at all, right? Second half of the conversation was actually like, because he left, went away for like 35 minutes, came back, and then he asked like actionable items. But one thing that I will take note of that I thought was very interesting was the fact that a lot of the shit that like the Ethan Kleins of the world have like cried about over and over again were unironically brought up in that fucking conversation. And I was shocked. Okay. Not like the bleach sword, obviously, but like the Houthi. Like, did you interview a Houthi? It says here that you interviewed a Houthi. And I was like, or was he actually a Houthi? And I was like, he's not. You can look to all of the reporting that came out afterwards and before I interviewed him that he is not a Houthi, that he is a regular Yemeni citizen. And I said, like, his name is Rashid al-Haddad. He is not even a Shia. And the dude, luckily, again, Iraqi, went, oh, yeah, that's right. That's a Sunni last name. Al-Haddad is a Sunni last name. So he must not have been a Houthi. And the very fact that that was like a point of contention that could have fucking gotten me arrested is insane. And I genuinely, in that moment, was thinking like, these fucking dumbass slop tubers are actually playing with fucking fire. And I even thought about not even mentioning this because I was like, I don't want to give him any sort of like power over the situation. But like, the reality of the matter is 100% the Trump administration is inadvertently working with a lot of these fucking dipshits. These dipshits are playing a formative role in getting people in trouble with the law. Okay? That is literally the case. It was shocking that that was the case, but it is the case. And it's actually very frustrating that it is the case, that this administration doesn't care. That's why they work with Beitar. That's why they work with all these other fucking insane groups. The Barry Weisses of the world actually have motion in this goddamn admin. Okay? So, they're cheering this on over at eSub. Yeah, I know. They can suck my dick. Liberals, by the way, cheering on one of the largest progressive voices in the country getting detained by the fucking Trump Gestapo. Like, what a wonderful progressive audience they have over there. Anyway, they're fucking straight up fascist at this point. So my point is, it's crazy that like these were actual questions. Like, they asked me about my Twitch bans, okay? And I talked about blowback. I talked about how, I said America deserved 9/11 and it was misconstrued. I do have sometimes, I use hyperbolic language and it gets taken out of context or whatever. And he agreed with the blowback sentiment in terms of like the 9/11 stuff. You're dumb. Yeah, no, I told him that. I was like, yeah, they asked me about my fucking Twitch bans, chat. It's not even a joke. They asked me about fucking Twitch chat. Like Twitch bans. Not Twitch chat, but Twitch bans. The other Twitch ban he asked me about was the last one that I got banned. And I explained to him like, this is, man, you really talk way too much. Lawyer will be pretty upset at you. Dude, what are you talking about? I know that under normal circumstances, I'm supposed to say, I want a lawyer. I don't want to talk to you. But nothing I'm doing is illegal. And I also wanted to see what would happen. Do you understand? I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to actually see this experience, which is why instead of immediately fucking lawyering up, I was like, no, I'm going to entertain this. I'm going to see what they actually are trying to get out of this. And I'm glad I did this because the reality of the matter is, one, I'm profoundly fucking privileged, okay? Remember, I'm a public person. And also, I have enough money to be able to fight back against this sort of thing. And they know who the fuck I am. So obviously, the reason for why they're doing that is, I think, to try to create an environment of fear, to try to get people like myself, or at least like others that would be in my shoes that don't have that same level of security, to shut the fuck up. And for me, I'm going to use the privilege that I have in that moment to try and see what the fuck they're doing. Okay? Because Every single thing that they ask me, trying to get me to say something like, oh, I support Hamas or whatever, is literally not allowed. Like, they are not. What the fuck do you mean? Like, why is this denying me entry into the country of my birth? Like, this is my birthright. I'm an American citizen. You can't just stop me at the fucking border and be like, what's your opinion on Donald Trump? You're not allowed to enter the nation. Like, that's fucking bullshit. So, that was the first half. Like I said, they asked about the Twitch bans. They asked about like the Rick Scott statement, and I was like, listen, I don't. I laughed. I was like, I'm not calling for the assassination of a sitting senator. That'd be fucking insane. But instead, I explained to him, like, I was talking about the hypocrisy of the Republicans, blah blah blah. I explained away all that shit, and he was understanding. Then he went back and he came back, and the actionable items that came up afterwards was basically asking me about if I had ever been in contact with Hamas, if I had ever been in contact with the Houthis, directly or indirectly, if I had ever actually been in contact with Hezbollah, if I'd actually ever offered financial support or logistics or any kind of support to Hamas, Hezbollah, or Houthis. They straight up asked me that. I laughed. I said, no, of course not. But yeah, that was, once again, these are questions that they're asking. But one thing that I thought was really interesting was in the actionable side of things, they also asked, have you ever interviewed a member of Hamas? Have you ever had a communication or correspondence with a member of Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis? Now, what's really fucking insane about that is that as someone who works in media, sometimes I do actually do journalism, right? As I've maintained this position over and over again. And I said that I would, if given the opportunity, talk to someone that is a part of the Ansar Allah movement, a Houthi, or even Hamas, or even Hezbollah, right? I think that I have the right to do so. And what was interesting, you don't do journalism, you grift. I know, Chatter. That's why the fucking federal government is trying to arrest me. Yes, because I'm grifting too hard. That's what it is. Thank you. Yes, your fucking dumbass slop tuber is correct. I'm grifting. So what's interesting, asking that is a violation of prior restraint. So that part, like, those are the questions that are like actionable, right? Like, those are the ones that if you say, how do you even classify a member of Hamas? It's not like even Hamas issues passports. Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? But that is the part where they were like, if you answer yes to any of that, that's when, there's like actually illegal stuff in there. Having said that, there is one part of it that wasn't illegal, which is being in communications or being in contact with someone at Hamas. Like, that is a part of journalism you actually can do. It's fucking ridiculous. Like, you can interview ISIS. Like, what are we talking about? The notion that this would be an issue for the Customs and Border Patrol is fucking ridiculous, okay? I mean, Donald Trump is in contact with Hamas. He had a fucking envoy directly talk to Hamas a couple months prior. He's in direct contact with the fucking Houthis. Like, what are you talking about? And so is Dropsite. Like, the idea that this will deny you entry into the country is fucking bullshit. Like, what are we talking about? What do you mean? Like, what kind of insane double standard is there, right? And so that part was frustrating. And the interview interrogation, whatever you want to call it, that basically ended with me asking, like, so what is the purpose of this? Like, am I being detained? And because I was like, you know that I'm going to talk about this. I was like, a lot of people have talked about this, like, detainment structure. And he was like, yeah, people really exaggerate how these things go. And I was like, well, it is not a great situation to be in, like, what do you mean? Yeah, he was like, yeah, there's been a lot of reporting on, the conditions and situations like this in detainment, but you're not technically detained. I was like, so I can leave? Like, I asked him, like, am I detained? And he's like, no. I was like, all right, so what's the purpose of this entire situation? I can just walk out right now. And basically when I said that, the interview ended. So I don't know if that was something that I should have said from the start. Am I being detained? you know, what's the deal here? But basically, yeah, it was a illegal pretense. Like, well, that's your Fourth Amendment right? No, you don't have. Okay, chatters, I need you to understand something. So after I said, am I being detained or whatever, he was like, no, well, you know, he didn't like abruptly end it. He kept asking some questions, but it pretty much ended after that. And I don't know if that was like, I don't know if that's like I got lucky there. Because when I asked, like, am I free to go? That kind of stopped the process a little bit. And I don't know if that's the reason why I didn't have them look through my phone. But I wasn't planning on letting them look through my phone anyway. That was my point. Like, there was a line where I was going to say, I'm done with this. Either fucking arrest me or, you know, let me go. I don't know what the fuck's happening here. And I got detained. I didn't get detained. Yes, chatter. Yes. ICE agents took me to a detention center. That is a de facto detention. Like, what are you talking about? The total runtime of it was like 2 hours, which was definitely faster than I thought it was going to be, I will admit. And I probably should have asked, am I being detained from the start? And I wonder what would have happened. But I basically asked him, like, do you think this is going to happen again? Right? I was like, is this going to happen again? Hold on. I asked, like, you know, am I going to be detained in the future? And he said, maybe. And he gave me this piece of paper, this sheet from Homeland Security. What is DHS trip? Okay. And you can, I guess, submit an inquiry at dhs.gov/trip and ask why I was stopped. You will be prompted to describe your particular concerns and experience, provide contact information to which a response will be directed, and be assigned a case number to help you monitor the progress of your inquiry, which I will do. Okay, I will do this. And he basically said, you know, you can figure out what not to do so that this doesn't happen again. And I suspect the what not to do is just don't be a fucking political commentator that speaks about American foreign policy, which is not something I'm planning on stopping. Now, why did I tell you guys about this experience? Okay. Why did I tell you about this entire experience? Like, because in my mind, I thought maybe I shouldn't reveal this stuff because I think, like, the goal here is to put fear into people's hearts, to have a chilling effect on speech, that, like, the government is unafraid of intimidating you in illegal ways. Okay. The government is now officially willing and able to intimidate you for speech, for your speech. That is a direct violation of the First Amendment. I'm no fucking First Amendment auditor. I'm no big city libertarian. I'm no Mr. Admiral Maritime Law. But the reality of the matter is that as of this administration, they are totally willing and able to actually come after you for your speech. And even with, like, ridiculous shit. Like, they're willing and able to go along with, like, stuff that gets written in the free press, or willing and able to go along with shit that even fucking Redditors bring up. Okay? That's how stupid and silly this situation has gotten. Now, of course, does this stop me from saying whatever the fuck I want to say? Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. But the reason why I wanted to talk about it was to give you more insight into what the government is doing, and to speak out against this sort of stuff, because I do have a position of privilege here, and I want to make sure that, like, if they can do this to me, like, they probably are willing and able to do this to others as well. But you should know your rights, that you should not be fearful, and you should not worry, especially if you're an American citizen, that these guys are going to come after you and, like, arrest you or some shit. Okay? Was your interview recorded? I don't know. But it is pretty wild, I will say. As someone who's been held up in airports many times over, it was actually shocking. It was actually shocking that these guys totally fucking grabbed me, knowing exactly who I am, knowing that I will most likely talk about this, with the hopes that I think that they would at least stoke some fear and threaten people like myself, and then also threaten others as a byproduct of this. I mean, it backfired in my situation, but I hope this doesn't discourage others from speaking out as well. It's fucking bullshit. They don't have the right to do this, okay? They do not have a right to do this. If you don't already know, your ops are doing mass email campaigns to the feds to try and get this exact same thing to happen. Yeah, I know. They can suck my cock for all of my fucking dumbass ops. I think it's really crazy. I think it's really, really crazy that the government is willing and able to work with like genuine schizophrenic stalkers, whether they be Beitar or any other group. It is actually wild that they're willing and able to work with these people. It blows my mind. But you know, that is where we're at. It also blows my fucking mind that there are people who see this kind of stuff and go, "Oh, that's wonderful." It's like swatting, but this time it's a federal swatting that we can do. We can get the federal agents to like jail people that my favorite content creator doesn't like. But the problem is airports are not constitutional free zones. That's a lie that ICE pushes to make you comply with them. That's not entirely correct, Lesbian Bolivar. There is precedent after years and years of there's years and years of precedent in post 9/11 war on terror world where they have actually created a structure where they can get away with violating your Fourth Amendment rights in airports. Like it's in a legal gray area. But yeah, here was Lolo. Overrules take DHS flagging and detaining one of U.S.'s largest left-wing voices for their political opinions, while the Trump admin suggests they might suspend habeas corpus, does not portend well for the future. Yeah, that's where we're at. What was the reason for the detainment? You know what the reason for the detainment was. It's because I am flagged in the flight manifest. Even ACLU and most civil rights organizations acknowledge that SCOTUS precedent that effectively erases Fourth Amendment protections in border entry zones such as international airports. They more so suggest either wiping your devices or bringing burner devices. Yeah. Saw you at O'Hare and tried to get a selfie with you, but your private security took you into a VIP room to avoid normies like me. Didn't realize you were too good for your fans. Some socialist you turned out to be. Good one. There was actually 2 Hasanabi heads as I was walking out of ICE detention. There were 2 Hasanabi heads. They probably had no idea that I was walking out of ICE detention with a fucking agent in front of me. But is this going to change the way you travel? No, but it does actually gum up the works a little bit in terms of going to Cuba. I did want to go to Cuba, but now I don't know. And no, I'm not going to fucking go to Kat's campaign office, chat. What are you guys, stupid? I'm sorry. I know she's excited, but you guys don't have to literally fucking be like, hey, can you, instead of covering the news, go to Kat's campaign office? I can't do that today, chat. There is a shit ton of news that I have to get to. And then at fucking 4 p.m., I have to leave to go to the University of Chicago to deliver a speech, okay? There's a lot going on today. I'm sorry. But, oh, I forgot. There was other questions that they asked, like, have you traveled to the Middle East? Have you been to any of the Gulf states? All this shit. And, you know, it is what it is. I'm not discouraged. I'm not intimidated. I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I just wanted to give you guys, I know Kat wants us to hang out. I can't do that today. Did they ask who funds you? No, they asked if I funded them, not the other way around. So that was my Customs and Border Patrol experience. And yeah, it's just like pure intimidation tactics. And it was very similar to the experience that one TikToker talked about. But luckily, I never got to the point of having them go through my phone. And that was my red line, like no matter what. That was where I was going to be like, no, you can't do that. And, you know, arrest me then if you want to. Is this speech open to the public? We are going to be live streaming it. We're live streaming the speech. Okay. Did they ask why you say you're a gaming streamer despite not playing games? Yes. Any plans for a Chicago meetup? No. I'm going to be flying out after my speech. I'm going to University of Chicago. I'm going to University of Chicago to talk to I'm going to University of Chicago to talk with Ested. and we're just gonna do like a back and forth. I think there's like questions. They had the most signups ever for any fucking speaking engagement on the campus, and they're very excited, and I'm very excited as well. Where was it? There was, oh, this is the experience that it closely resembled, by the way. ICE detains a woman who runs anti-Trump TikTok. She's a U.S. citizen born and raised. She was detained for hours as agents searched her phone and social media, even demanding financial statements on how much she earns on TikTok. They never asked me for my financial statements either. The woman who goes by Eye of Sav was returning from a European vacation at the Miami International Airport with a valid global re-entry card issued to her as a U.S. citizen, but she also had global entry. Do you charge speaker fees? No. Sometimes, not usually. How worried were you about actually being arrested? I did not know. I had no idea. I had no idea if I was going to be fucking arrested or not. I didn't know if this was like, I did not know that this was going to be a moment where I didn't know if this was going to be a moment where I was going to be the precedent setting court case. You know what I mean? Like, that is definitely a worry that I have for sure. It's something that I think about because eventually, somewhere along the line, somewhere down the line, someone is going to be the precedent setting court case of whether or not someone gets prosecuted for speech and speech alone, because the line right now is material support, and that line is being blurred by this current administration with Mahmoud Khalil, with Mohsen Mahdawi, with Rumeysa Öztürk, right? Like, they're, wait, did I say her name? I keep saying her name wrong. Okay, no, I did say it right. Rumeysa Öztürk is the person. So that some of those people have been released at this point, but Mahmoud Khalil is still very much in detention. And according to Marco Rubio, the argument that they are trying to use is that speech is material support, right? They are actively trying to blur the boundaries between what constitutes material support to try to make it seem as though things that would be protected under First Amendment would be considered material support. Expressing any sort of opinion is considered material support. And that's fucking bullshit. Anyway, people take for granted that the CBP can unlock your phone with a special computer, but to the best of my knowledge, modern iPhones have a locally keyed encryption on the flash storage, which likely makes it useless if they can pull it. Maybe you shouldn't have said if they come for me, then it's over, as if you'd be last. If you're a public figure, dog, maybe you'd be first now. No, because they haven't come for me beyond like being a nuisance and being fucking annoying and thinking that they can get away with like trying to put some sort of fear in my heart, which is of course not going to work, obviously. Can you detail what they asked you? I already did, Cliff. Wow, you forgot. Or you missed it. Do you think that's all they wanted? I don't know. Maybe they're setting up an investigation for the future. Who knows? We'll find out. We shall find out. But as it stands, I think like it's a normal process now. Yeah, Seamus said, been pulled into secondary screening many times at O'Hare. CBP had the most involved in specific questions about Gaza for me by far. Glad to see you got out of there without having to give up your devices. Yeah. How worried was your family? They were also on flight. So by the time I got out, it was, you're flagged as a travel risk now. Scary stuff. Yeah. Are you concerned about landing in LA? No, because that's domestic travel. There's no customs and border patrol experience during domestic travel. That'd be fucking insane. But yeah, I am my worst enemy in that regard. I did want to get this interaction out because I wanted to like figure out what the fuck they were doing. And I'm fortunate that I didn't actually get into any additional trouble, but I could have, you know what I mean? That could have certainly happened. Right. And, who knows? I can't imagine how scared the other non-American citizens waiting there were. It's evil. Yeah. I mean, it's so much worse for them because like I am profoundly privileged, as I say all the time. I'm profoundly privileged. I'm rich. I'm an American citizen. I was born here, you know, and I have I'm a public figure on top of that. So all of this stuff plays a role in how protected I am from additional scrutiny. How familiar were they with your channels? No, they were very familiar. Well, to be fair, you said Americans are disgusting. Yeah, no shit. Doesn't this fucking prove that for you? What do you mean? Like, my Palestinian spouse got their American passport flagged during the Biden presidency. They now can't get a boarding pass online, and they separate us and our stuff as security. They took their laptop and phone too. Yeah, it's really fucking gross. Are you scared to go out of the country again? No. Anyway, also, I'm an American. The fuck do you mean? I can say Americans are disgusting. It's First Amendment protected speech. What is this? Look through my logs. I had top secret security clearance. Oversight that can actually catch us doing illegal shit is improper. Have you seen Instagram reels of that guy? What is this? What? Bruh, I thought they got you. Maybe you shouldn't have said if they come for me, then it's over, as if you'd be last. What? Anyway, I have plans besides Cuba, China as well. And I 100% will get in trouble when I go to China and come back from China. But I'm not going to. Anyway, they're trying to tie up and make state-to-state air travel more intense. I know. Will you live stream your next detainment? Will you shove a mic up your butt? Yeah, I'm going to do that. Yes, Cuba is worse because... wait, hold on. Cuba is worse because it's a state-sponsored terrorist state. It's a state sponsor of terror, which is so ridiculous. Are you not curious how they have a list of specific questions about you locked in the chamber? Like there's a team responsible for monitoring you? Maybe. I mean, it doesn't matter. Nothing I'm doing is illegal, at least for now, you know? Until I'm the person that they use to set a new precedent, nothing I'm doing is illegal. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it's fucking ridiculous. And for the record, like my analysis over the Houthis or Hezbollah or Hamas, like that's not only not illegal, but it also doesn't even reach the standards of terms of service, which is a significantly higher barrier than free speech. Like being a Nazi is technically protected under the First Amendment, but if you were a fucking Nazi on this platform, they would obviously ban you, and that would be appropriate, right? Everybody stop asking me to check their logs. Nothing you ever say is going to be relevant, okay? Whenever people say, Gango, please check logs, I'm being honest with you, your fucking logs are going to be stupid, okay? I already did that. I already did that with a guy who was like, I have top secret security clearance. Like, check my logs. And then it was dumb as fuck. You hold yourself to a much higher standard. Yeah, it's just, because of Twitch especially, like, I'm not doing anything that is illegal to begin with, but I'm not even doing anything that like reaches the territory of edge. No matter how much slop tubers try to fucking make it seem as though like I'm running around fucking waving the Hamas banner every day or whatever the fuck, like, which still would be protected under First Amendment and would not stop the Gestapo from denying me entry into my own fucking country. But I'm not doing that regardless. Like all the stuff that they did ask me about Rick Scott. Yes. All the stuff that I have talked about on this broadcast are still completely fucking, not only First Amendment protected, but also on top of that, like not even reaching the standard of like truly questionable speech, regardless of what like Mudahar or Asmongold claims it is, right? It doesn't reach that standard. And that's precisely the reason why they have to actively clip shit out of context and desperately try to create drama surrounding this so they can get Twitch to enforce some action on it so they can make it seem as though this is actually truly radical speech that's like really fucked up. Does that make sense? Because like when a platform like Twitch actually does take action against someone like myself, then other institutions will use that. Other institutions will basically use that as a way to say, oh, he did do something bad. He did do something fucked up. Okay? So, it is what it is. I traveled to Cuba recently. I'm not a Fed. It was completely legally sanctioned trip. You should go because the Cuban people want more people to know about their plight. Yeah, I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see what happens. So media and other content YouTubers are currently, no, it's not even media. It's like free press. It's like Hasbara papers that no one takes seriously. and then slop tubers that even less people take seriously and don't give a shit about. They are trying to fucking label me as a terrorist. It doesn't fucking matter what they label me as. They can suck my dick. It's still crazy that like ICE will entertain this shit though, because it goes along with their interests. All right, now let's get to the news. There is a special report. Hamas has released American hostage Eden Alexander. Donald Trump actually did something unique here. And after cutting talks with Israel and going directly to Hamas in the past, they did it again. Donald Trump and his team actually said, Israel, you are a major setback in these ceasefire negotiations. So fuck you. We're going directly to Hamas. And they did that, just like they directly went to the Ansar Allah movement to cut a side deal and a ceasefire with the Ansar Allah movement. If you recall, if you are fans of Drop Site News, as I am, and there is a lot of importance in being able to talk to Houthis directly and being able to talk to Hamas directly, being able to talk to Hezbollah and Palestinian Islamic Jihad directly. So shouts out to the Drop Site boys for constantly doing incredible coverage on that front. If you remember their reporting on the matter, the Ansar Allah movement told Drop Site News in an interview that they would stop blowing up American ships and attacking American naval vessels if America stopped bombing Yemen. Okay? This reporting was so important that I think personally, I'm speculating here, it played a role in the American government actually seeing that and going, okay, we can cut a fucking side deal with them, because they literally ended up doing that. And the side deal that they cut in Oman was on the same boundaries that were presented in the Drop Site reporting a month prior, that they would not stop the blockade. They would not stop attacking Israel as long as Israel kept doing its genocide, but they would stop attacking American vessels, American Navy ships in the region if America stopped attacking Yemen, if America stopped bombing Yemen. And they did that. They cut a side deal with the Ansar Allah movement. And then Trump famously came out and said, Houthis are so brave. They're so courageous. They're so strong. I love them. Right? And then after that, a similar pattern is emerging with Israel. Okay? A similar pattern is now emerging with Israel, where the Trump administration, if you recall, had actually sidestepped Israel a couple months prior. They had another guy. I forget his name. What was the guy that talked directly to Hamas and Israel got him cut out? I forget his name. He was like a Trump envoy that basically went directly to Hamas and had a conversation directly with Hamas. No, it wasn't Witkoff, chatters. Come on, it was the different guy. Not Witkoff. The Adam Baylor. Thank you, Muslim monk. Thank you. Adam Baylor. Adam Baylor was the one who famously talked to Hamas and then went to American news and straight up was like, hey, these guys are not fucking animals. Like, they're human beings. We can talk to them. And Israel lost their fucking minds because the Trump administration a couple months ago, if you remember, was using this one guy, Adam Baylor, to directly talk to Hamas to release Elon Alexander, who is a New Jersey resident with a dual citizenship. He's an Israeli American who was captured on October 7th. Okay? He was a soldier. He's a prisoner of war. He was a part of the IDF, and he got captured. And the Trump administration wanted to cut a side deal with Hamas to release him months ago. Okay? And Adam Baylor even went as far as to say, we're the United States. We're not an agent of Israel, right? And this frustrated the Israeli authorities so much that they basically backpocketed him. They cut him out. They were like, how dare you do this? How dare you communicate with Hamas without our go-ahead? How dare you communicate with Hamas without us? Well, it turns out Trump is done. It turns out that Trump is frustrated and cutting side deals with Hamas again. And the culmination of that side deal has unfolded in the release of Eden Alexander, the New Jersey resident, dual citizen, in the lead up to this actual negotiation with Hamas that Israel took no part in, by the way. Steve Witkoff openly said and wanted to leak to the press these statements. This is important. He wanted these statements to be heard by press. Steve Witkoff says the U.S. wants to return the hostages, but Israel is not ready to end the war. Israel is prolonging the war, even though we do not see where further progress can be made. The Trump administration knows very well that Israel is making this war last forever in order to keep Netanyahu in power and continue the genocide. Israel has lost Trump. Now, I don't think Israel has lost Trump entirely. I think that who knows what might happen. Miriam Adelson might actually fucking make a phone call to Trump and be like, cut it out. What the fuck are you doing? You know, I gave you so much money, you fucking asshole. Having said that, Trump is, one, hard to work with and gets frustrated fast when he feels like he's being manipulated. And obviously that classic Israeli arrogance and entitlement is, you know, he's only going to take so much of that until he goes, shut the fuck up, okay? You're fucking up the bag for me. He came into office saying he was going to end these wars. He's not getting the response from Ukraine and Russia because Russia is a foreign adversary that is also manipulating Trump. But he has a lot more power and a lot more motion over Israel, which would not be able to conduct these operations without America's go-ahead, without America's munitions. So I think he looks at the situation, he looks at all the fucking chaos unfolding around the planet, and he goes, well, this is an area where I can actually put my fucking weight down. I can actually put my foot down. And in the process, I think the Netanyahu administration fucking annoyed him so much that he was just like, okay, we're going to do it ourselves then. And I think this was a big deal. This was a very big deal because it once again showed how much power America has. Because guess what? When America says we're talking to Hamas directly and we're extracting an Israeli American, and there are certain concessions that are going to take place in the process, Israel has to entertain that. Israel can't just go, no, you can't do that. As opposed to when France would try to do some shit like that, Israel could tell them to fuck off. Whereas they can't do that to the United States of America. And Biden had that power too. Never forget that. That's why I was so goddamn frustrated with the Biden administration lying at the behest of Israel, making it seem as though Biden was like having a stern talking to with Benjamin Netanyahu and that Netanyahu was not playing ball. Yeah, Netanyahu doesn't have to play ball. You can take the ball away. You are the United States of America. So ironically enough, they basically lost one of their biggest allies in the fucking region. The Israeli government did, because you had a brain dead, diehard Zionist who was indoctrinated into this process and was actually a loyal servant at that point. Like he just like truly was a fedayeen for Israel in a way that Trump is not, because Trump at the end of the day is easily manipulated. Trump at the end of the day is hot-headed and will get mad. Trump at the end of the day will turn around and get a fucking plane from Qatar and go, all right, well, I'll make nice with these boys, right? Just like Trump and his seeming loyalty to Israel comes from the pocket change that he got to the tune of $100 million previously from Sheldon Adelson, who is now dead, rest in piss, and now his wife, Miriam Adelson, who gave another $100 million this time around. So $100 million can buy a lot of influence in this administration. But that means that someone else with $150 million could also buy a lot of influence in the administration, right? So I think this is important. I think it's important that this deal happened because it basically shows the depravity of the Israeli government. It shows the depravity of the Israeli government to the Israeli society as a whole. It shows Israelis that wanted to, release these hostages because they want their fucking family members back, that like this administration has no interest in this whatsoever. So this basically lights a fire under the asses of everybody that is involved in this process to be like, what the fuck is Netanyahu doing? This war cannot go on. And that they're too invested in death and destruction and not invested in like actually fucking bringing back hostages when America can seemingly do so. And in the process, the Israeli government has said, we need to detox from American security arrangements. No, the fuck you won't. Suck my dick, right? Here's senior fellow of Carnegie Endowment, Aaron David Miller, who had this assessment, and I kind of agree with it. A pattern is developing here. Trump outreach to Hamas twice, Houthi ceasefire, and Iran negotiations, all uncoordinated with Israel, with the possible exception of Bush-Baker. All previous Republican Democrat administrations coordinated closely with Israel. No daylight policy. Not this one. Fascinating. Now, I don't know. I'm still very skeptical about this process. I will say personally that it's not a no daylight process. Maybe I'm too suspicious of Israel and how much power Israel has had in American foreign policy in the Middle East in the past, that like one man like Donald Trump is not going to be able to fucking completely roll that back. But at the very least, the Trump administration is seemingly not shying away from demonstrating a direct separation from Israel on a lot of these issues. Okay? Do you see what I'm saying?
NBC News can now confirm the last living American hostage being held in Gaza has been released. Idan Alexander now in Red Cross custody after nearly 600 days in captivity and heading home. He's 21 years old. He was born and raised in...
How does this administration's collaboration with Hamas converge with the administration's contempt for pro-Palestine protesters? Brother, they're not like pro-Hamas, but I do think that Israel is such a fucking arrogant and such an entitled ally that, yes, Hamas, that it even gets these people to see Hamas as the more reasonable, more restrained party because of Israel's behavior. Do you not understand? They're not pro-Hamas, but even they understand, like, yeah, we're going to probably get a better deal from Hamas than we will from Israel because they just want to fucking ethnically cleanse the entire strip. And we want to bring out like the American citizen. We want to put an end to this conflict because it looks bad, because it looks horrible. I mean, this is a meme, but like it's kind of real. This meme right here is like, honestly, I think something like this happened to Trump, which is why he's now negotiating with Hamas. It's like, yeah, if you deal with Israel long enough, if you recognize the way Israel operates, if you see it, if you see that pattern emerging, eventually you're going to be like, all right, I'll go with the guys that are more reasonable here, which is Hamas.
It's a good game. I thought in the beginning Israel was better, but now Mali is is destroying them, I think. Israel is not bad. Israel is not bad, but I think Mali is going to destroy them today. No, I'm just talking about football. I'm just talking about football. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
This is literally just like this is a common pattern that has emerged throughout this past year and a half, where Israel does some insane, heinous shit, okay? And then its supporters loudly declare it as the best possible thing to do. Everybody goes, what the fuck are you saying? This is incredible violence. Like, how are you saying this? Like, I don't think we should be killing children like this. And they go, you're anti-Semitic. Fuck you. You are terrorist. You are terrorist. Police, arrest this man. No politics here. And it causes people to go, okay, fuck you. You know, free Palestine. Okay. They've basically pushed people into the hands of Hamas as the reasonable party. Remember, this is a guy that literally said he wanted to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip. Like, that was his idea, okay? That was his brilliant idea, was like, yeah, let's just fucking cleanse it all. And a couple months later, now he's like, I'm done. You know, glory to the fucking Al-Qassam martyrs. Like, that's what he fucking went from being like, we should ethnically cleanse the entirety of the Gaza Strip to, inshallah, the martyrs of the Al-Qassam brigades will one day be seen as hailed as heroes over the course of like back and forth conversations with Israel. It's fucking insane. Yeah, he hit the may Allah awaken the people. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, also that, and shouts out to the fucking Qatar, the Qatari envoys in the process. Those boys played a big role in this, okay? Much respect and much love to Qatar. With the $400 million jet that they're giving to Donald Trump, which will be gifted once the Trump administration is over to the Trump library, from what I understand, which, of course, is obviously a major fucking greasing operation, okay? The top blokes over at Qatar straight up were like, dog, fuck it. Last time we didn't play ball with you and we learned our lesson. Do you want a plane? I would love to give you a $400 million plane that you can fucking personally get out of the situation. And that got Trump going like this.
Allah awaken the people and help them to see the evil doings of Israel and the United States.
Yeah, straight up. What made Donald Trump such a loyal ally to Israel, which was how endlessly bribable he is, has also made him somewhat of a foe at times, okay? But once again, don't forget, I do believe personally that Trump is unstable, he's dangerous, he does not give a shit about anything, really. So I'm not holding out my breath on this. And I agree with Felix once again. He says, you know what? If this makes him force Israel to eat a shit sandwich and smile, it's an incredible idea and I fully support it. Qatar does it again. Yeah. Like, shouts out to my fucking beautiful Qatari spenders out there, the Oilers. I love you. Shouts out to the fucking sheiks. Mwah. I love you. Thank you so much. Good job. Keep it up. Keep fucking greasing those goddamn wheels, okay? Keep it up, baby. Respect to all of my fucking Qatar funders. As you guys know, anytime someone subscribes, it's actually a Qatari emissary. You already know all my biggest Oilers, all my biggest greasers are the fucking, yeah, Barry Balls all the way from Qatar. Shouts out to Al Jazeera. Shouts out to Qatar. Respect. You know, Qatari Cat with 100 gifted subs. You already know, baby. We got the family in here. Oh, yeah. Fuck it, dude. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know what I mean? This guy is like incredibly easy to fucking manipulate. They're going to bring this up next time you get detained. Yeah, I'm going to be like, yeah, Trump is the great peacemaker, and I love him. Does this news change your views on who would have been better on this issue, Kamala versus Trump? Again, I'm not holding my breath on this, okay? Zylax with another 100 gifted. Hassan's Art of the Deal with a 5 gifted. God damn, 100 bones. Let's go, baby. As I was saying, does this change so far? Both yes and no. Once again, we don't know where this will go. I do not know what Trump will do. Okay, I do not know what Trump will do, and I'm very, very skeptical about like Trump caring about the well-being of. He is getting hard in the corner with all the possible out of context clips he can get. Yeah, whatever. Who cares? I don't think he understands that if the motherfucking Trump administration arrests me, like that's not going to magically make people like him. That's going to make people despise him even further. Okay? Like that's cat's out of the bag on that one, you know? There's no recovery there. But yeah, I don't give a fuck who does it, just end the genocide. Exactly. That's how I feel about it. That's where I'm at on this. The Hamas statement shows how different Witkoff is being compared to the Israelis. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. While Biden earned, Matthew Petty says, Biden was incredibly effective at his actual goal, buying Netanyahu infinite time for the war, but that required Biden to pretend to be hapless. Matt Duss, by the way, is executive vice president at CI Policy, and he is Bernie's former foreign policy advisor for Bernie Sanders. And Center for International Politics is policy is like a anti-war hawk think tank, basically, and they do pretty good work. So Matt Duss says it's really something to watch Trump handle Netanyahu more effectively than the alleged foreign policy expert Joe Biden did, and this is true. So far, he's been able to implement a ceasefire, and also on top of that, he's been able to he's been able to basically cut a side deal and piss off the Israeli administrators in the process, and is not afraid of stepping on toes in that regard. And I think that's ultimately a good thing. Okay. Jeremy Scahill talked about how Trump's actions are being interpreted inside of Israel. We'll talk about that in a second. But first and foremost, let's get to Duss is fine as long as it's not about Russia/China law. Yeah. I don't know his takes on China, but in any case, this is from the U.S. administration, was because they wanted to do a show of good faith to the Trump administration because the Trump administration was willing and able to talk to them separately from Israel. This is the reason why they did this. So if you're asking, like, what was the purpose of this? Like, Israel is still not allowing aid in. Israel's not allowing this. Israel's not doing anything. And Israel has said over and over again that we're not going to change course here. We are in the business of ethnically cleansing the Gaza Strip. They have openly said it at this point, time and time again. You don't have to read the tea leaves, okay? You could just listen to Benjamin Netanyahu, who says, we do not give a fuck about the hostages. Hostages are low priority. The highest priority is cleansing the Strip, making it unlivable. Okay? Understand this. Everything that we have said, everything that I have said for the past 15, 16 months, these guys are now openly stating. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Security Committee. The Gazans we remove will not return. They won't be there. We will control the place. There is no other war target. Any other target is just bluff. He has openly stated this, okay? His only goal is to ethnically cleanse the fucking Gaza Strip. They are saying it actively. They're saying it openly. They're saying it in real time. It is no longer something that you can act like it's not happening. Of course, there's very little coverage in the Western world on this stuff, but you know they have moved on to at least this kind of thing. New York Times doing 6 deadly minutes. How Israeli soldiers killed 15 rescue workers in Gaza. Like, there is a tide shift in mainstream media as well. There's a tide shift in the State Department in the way that they're examining their relationship with Israel, and there's certainly a tide shift that's accompanying that with mainstream press, because the New York Times is the #1 Hasbara operation that has legitimacy, right? And the reason their visual investigations team has always been fantastic. Shouts out to Eric Toller. Shouts out to all the people that work in visual investigations in the forensic department in both Washington Post and also New York Times. As I've told you time and time again, these guys actually do incredible work, real journalism. But their regular news reporting team on the Israel side has always been incredibly limited and always engaged in defending Israel, burying the lead, omitting key details, never really covering incredibly important things that are happening in Israel, like the rape riots or any number of different things. Like the other day, there was new CCTV footage that came out of concentration camp guards literally raping a Palestinian in front of cameras. That didn't get any sort of coverage from the Western press. But this kind of stuff is new. Okay. And it's happening because I think there is a sea change. There is an attitude shift in the State Department. They're re-examining the relationship that they have with Israel. Okay. Also, here's a meme I posted. I said, how do I describe it to an ICE agent what this means when he sees the meme in my photo library? All right, let's get to the news reporting on American hostage Eden Alexander being released.
In Jersey. He also holds Israeli citizenship and was serving in the Israeli army when he was taken by Hamas during the October 7th attacks.
Yeah, by the way, they talk about him like they talk about this guy like, listen, I'm sorry. They talk about this guy as though he is like a hostage that was just minding his own fucking business. Like, brother, he is a volunteer war criminal. Okay, he is a soldier in the Israeli occupying force. I'm sorry, that's not the same as like taking a hostage from a fucking kibbutz. Okay, he was abducted from a tank. The very fact. No. This isn't. I don't think the guy. I don't think Edon was abducted from a tank. I think he was. Was this the guy that got abducted from a tank? I thought that there was another guy that they said was abducted from a tank. By the way, kidnapped from a tank is an insane statement. Okay. But no, I thought he was like I thought he was as a gate guard or something. This is a prisoner of war. Okay. This is a prisoner of war. The framing, I don't think he was actually taken out of the tank. Yeah. Matan Angris was the tank guy. This guy, hostage Matan Angris, decided in April to release the video of his abduction from his tank. You cannot be abducted from a fucking tank, dude. You're in a goddamn tank. You can't use the term abduction when talking about a dude in a fucking tank. Okay? That's not a kidnapping. That is a prisoner of war. Okay? That is a legal prisoner of war. You're fucking insane. But this is not that guy. This is a different guy. He was also a volunteer, okay? He grew up in New Jersey and volunteered to join the Israel Defense Forces out of high school and was reportedly serving near the Gaza border during the attack. Yes, he was a prisoner of war. He was captured from a concrete outpost near the Gaza wall. Exactly. So the idea that this guy was poor guy, civilian, fucking these Hamas rapists like barbarically kidnapped him is fucking ridiculous. Words mean things. You know what I mean? Hamas released him in Adidas. First image of Hamas handing over hostage Eden Alexander to the Red Cross. This relates to how Lang expressed outrage at Abu Toha's Pulitzer. In a letter to the Pulitzer board, she wrote, "He posted about me on Facebook and asked, how on earth is this girl being called a hostage?" Abu Toha, a poet and survivor of the Israeli detention, was awarded the Pulitzer Prize for commentary for his dispatches from Gaza in The New Yorker, chronicling life under bombardment and siege. His recognition marked a rare acknowledgement of Palestinian narratives in U.S. media. Yeah, I'm sorry. You are a fucking soldier. You are an illegal enemy combatant participating in an exterminationist government's genocidal policies. When you getting kidnapped is out of the question. You're not kidnapped. You are a prisoner of war in that process. If we can't consider Israeli occupying force soldiers to be enemy combatants, that when they get actually detained, we don't think about them as fucking prisoners of war, what the fuck are we doing? Anyway, also, this guy's awesome. And Martin Scorsese posted with him, which made me really happy. But that's totally separate. Let's take a look.
Congratulations, first of all, on your win. I'm very sorry for everything you and your family continue to go through. Your win is not without controversy, obviously, and in particular, some comments you've made in the past about the Israeli hostages have been very controversial, where you have said that most of the hostages...
Like, can you... Dude, imagine having a Holocaust survivor on a media broadcast to be like, hey, you said something really mean about SS troopers. You said, and the mean thing is basically that it is totally valid to fucking apprehend them and to stop them from doing murder, right? Like, can you imagine? What the fuck? After this person wins a Pulitzer for their dispatch as being a survivor of a live stream genocide, it's fucking insane.
Held by Hamas are not actually hostages. I believe you specifically singled out Emily Damari.
Yes, Amy Cesar is correct. What Europe couldn't forgive Hitler wasn't what he did, it was what he did to the white man, is unironically so prescient in this moment to think about.
A 28-year-old who was kidnapped from her home and held for 471 days and lost 2 fingers. I'm just wondering, is there anything you want to clarify about those comments?
First of all, I did not question her status as a hostage, because she is a hostage, but because what other Palestinians who were kidnapped. I mean, I don't want to name people, but I have people in my family who were kidnapped from checkpoints, from schools, from shelters, and they are named prisoners. So my question was, why should Emily and other hostages be named hostages while my loved ones should be named prisoners? So that was the question. I've never denied anyone suffering. I know that everyone is suffering, Israelis and Palestinians. But why are our sufferings not acknowledged? Why are we called terrorists? Why are we called prisoners of war, while the Israelis who were kidnapped from Israel are named hostage? Does this give them more humanity because they are Israelis, while my loved ones are being named prisoners and they are tortured? I mean, I myself, by the way, I was kept hostage for 53 hours. I was blindfolded and handcuffed and was beaten in my face and asked for the Israeli soldiers to see a doctor, and they denied me any medical treatment. So no one is talking about this. Why? They are not acknowledging my suffering. So I questioned, why are they given this privilege of being called a hostage, while I am called in all the social, in all news platforms, I was named, I was detained, I was a prisoner. Why? Am I less human?
Misinformation that Trump Allah awakened the people was an edit is misinformation. Yeah, no shit, chatter. Do you think that the Dune song started playing in the fucking auditorium after he said that? No, it's clipped because he's restating what Ilhan Omar had said. But we like to have we like to meme around a little bit around these parts. Like, I didn't. That's crazy that you thought that that was like something that he genuinely said, like sincerely said. That's hilarious. It's real to me, damn it. Okay, I will not have this question. Donald Trump genuinely said that. He said that, and he was actually being real when he said that.
Anyone else? So that was the question. It was not the question that she was not kidnapped, that she was not tortured. I did not talk about any of this.
Well, you did criticize some Western outlets for humanizing the hostages.
Because we are not humanized.
Well, I guess my question to you is, wouldn't the better approach to be to humanize everyone, to treat all humans?
Do you know what I'm going through every day?
I cannot
do you
even
know how
imagine.
many members of my family were killed?
Oh, I can't deal with this. I can't, like, these people are fucking barbaric in the way that they shamelessly dehumanize people, dehumanize Palestinians to their faces. It's like, wow, why don't you have more grace for people who have participated in a military campaign against you? Like, all lives matter. All lives matter directly to the face of someone who is victim. Anyway, once again, Common Scorsese W. This made me really happy. To celebrate Moshe Bobotoa's new Pulitzer, the stars came out left and right. Himself and his wife, Maram, Judith Thurman, unnamed filmmaker, and me. Many hoots were had. Unnamed filmmaker. Unnamed filmmaker. I mean, that's a joke. Obviously, she's saying that as a joke, but that made me really fucking stoked. That is cool as hell, dude. That is cool as fuck. Seeing Martin Scorsese show support like this, whoo, that is amazing. Yeah. That is cinema, okay? That is fucking kino. That's cinema. I love that. All right, let's get back to Eden Alexander now.
Hamas is believed to still hold the bodies of 4 Israeli Americans. Let's get right to NBC's Hala Garani, who is live for us in Tel Aviv with the latest.
By the way, after Eden, there are still 20 hostages, prisoners of war that are still in the hands of Hamas, and a total number of, I believe, 58 now. The rest are dead, and Israel is refusing to deal with Hamas, and also has implemented the starvation campaign, as we talked about already. It's more than 2 months now where famine has reached critical levels in the Strip. They're not letting in any fucking aid. And I think the reason why Hamas cut this side deal as a show of good faith to the Americans was because they think that Americans will actually put an end to this ethnic cleansing. Hopefully they're right.
We've seen cheers erupt in New Jersey, Hala, and in Israel, where you are, we expect to see this handover occur any minute.
Right. We understand that the Red Cross and Red Crescent convoy carrying Eden Alexander Halle is now on its way out of the Gaza Strip. From there, Eden will be transported to Re'im Air Base.
Dude, don't say dumb shit like this. Just finish watching the VOD to catch up with your detainment stuff. Just crazy. I'm deleting the Twitch app and Discord from my phone when I travel to the US. I'm Canadian. Don't want them associating with me in any way. Shut the fuck up, chatter. That is literally what the goal is here, okay? They're not going to do shit to you. Suck my dick. Calm the fuck down. Don't even joke about stuff like that. It doesn't work that way, okay? Like, that's insane. It doesn't fucking work that way.
Via chopper, and he will be meeting up and reuniting with his loved ones, Yael Alexander, his mother, as well as his father and other family members in that air base. He will then be taken to Ichilov Hospital in Tel Aviv. 584 days. The deal that led to the release of Eden Alexander, interestingly, was struck as a result of direct negotiations between the Trump administration and Hamas, bypassing the Israeli government and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We understand that there is a possibility that Eden Alexander, if he is well enough, will...
By the way, here's another fucking insane thing that took place. If you recall, Netanyahu freaked out when Trump's team initiated direct talks with Hamas for Eden Alexander, and then they fucking targeted the site where Eden was being held, raising new questions about its use of the Hannibal Directive to kill hostages in Gaza and thereby reduce the main priority of political leverage for Hamas. Since October 7, Israel has killed dozens of Israeli citizens in Gaza, and there's every reason to believe that it is done according to official Hannibal Directive orders. Like, now they're stating, oh, maybe Hamas was lying. Maybe Hamas was lying about that, that bombing campaign that took place. We don't know, but just letting you know. We'll find out. We'll find out now that Eden has been released if he actually was under threat or not.
With President Trump, who is starting today a tour of Gulf Arab states in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, as well as the UAE. Eden Alexander, the last living American hostage, and as you mentioned, 4 other hostages deceased are still inside of the besieged enclave. Their bodies have not been returned by Hamas to their loved ones. We believe that potentially there had been a possibility that these bodies would also be sent back along along with Idan Alexander, but it doesn't appear to be the case. So Idan right now in ICRC custody, soon to be handed over to Israeli special forces and then reunited with his family, Hallie.
We're keeping an eye on that helicopter there in Reem in southern Israel, all as President Trump, Hala, as you mentioned, is getting ready to head to the region himself. To be clear, Hala, we don't know the condition of Idan Alexander, correct? Nobody's seen him. It's not clear how he's doing.
Correct. And it's interesting to note that we did not have these ceremonies that we saw in previous hostage exchanges with, the certificates given to hostages who were released by Hamas. This could be because the United States asked Hamas not to put on a propaganda show. We don't exactly know why, but it is very different to the previous hostage releases. We don't know what condition he's in. The last proof of life video came out last April. There was one in November where he directly appealed to President Donald Trump for his release. We know that if he goes to Ichilov Hospital in Tel Aviv, it means he doesn't need immediate care, because if he needs immediate medical attention, it will be given to him at the airbase, we understand, Hallie.
Hala, I'm going to ask you to stand by for a moment. I want to get to Gabe Gutierrez, who is live for us at the White House. And you heard Hala mention, Gabe, this is the result of apparently direct talks between the Trump administration and Hamas. And in just the last couple of seconds here, we've received a statement from Hamas confirming, in fact, that Idan Alexander has been released by them after contact with the American administration, with the Trump administration here. All of this essentially to unlock perhaps the steps toward a ceasefire and more humanitarian aid flowing into Gaza.
Yes, certainly, Hallie. The administration is selling this as a major foreign policy win. And we heard from President Trump just a short time ago here at the White House at the Roosevelt Room, where he was asked questions about this deal. The president saying that this hostage release was imminent. Now, he just departed the White House en route to that major international trip that you just mentioned, this trip to the Middle East, where he's heading to Saudi Arabia, to Qatar, and also the United Arab Emirates. There was some talk about whether the president might potentially be going to Israel during this trip, but he said no, he was not. And Hallie, what you've been discussing is very interesting. In this hostage release, the president and his administration bypassing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and from NBC's reporting, we have learned over the last several weeks there has become an increasingly strained relationship between the White House and Benjamin Netanyahu. President Trump, according to sources, apparently frustrated with the military offensive that Netanyahu has started back up again in Gaza. And also, Netanyahu was apparently shocked when President Trump announced a ceasefire with the Houthis, of course, that Iran-backed militant group in Yemen. The White House coming to an agreement with the Houthis that they would no longer attack U.S. forces. However, the Houthis did not make that same agreement to Israel, and now Netanyahu has vowed to defend himself. But again, this comes after a big weekend that the White House is trying to sell after several developments, not just in this, but also a ceasefire between India and Pakistan, and also the temporary trade deal that was struck over the weekend with China regarding tariffs, Hallie.
Want to point out to folks what you're seeing on your screen here. The left side, Tenafly, New Jersey. You are seeing people applauding there, holding up the Israeli flag. We saw cheers erupt when word came through that Idan Alexander, who of course was born and raised in New Jersey, he's from there, was in Red Cross custody. On the right side, that is a live shot looking at that helicopter there in southern Israel. And Hala, the timing of all this is particularly interesting, as Israel had been planning to ramp up its offensive on the ground in Gaza.
Yes, indeed. And Israel had said, when the Security Cabinet unanimously voted to expand its offensive inside the Gaza Strip, it has to be said, not a decision that is very popular in Israel, and certainly not among hostage families, that they would hold off on executing that plan if a ceasefire deal was struck between Hamas and Israel. Now, this is not one of those deals. This is a U.S.-Hamas agreement that led to the release of just one American hostage. It is not a deal that calls for a ceasefire. In fact, Israel even said they are not going to stop bombing the Gaza Strip, that they would just facilitate some sort of...
Is it better now? I lowered the exposure myself, but I guess it wasn't enough because the lights keep coming in and out. But I think it's better, yeah. All right. Go for a walk? Okay. Yo, if you can... Well, no, I was going to say, can you give me Zins? Sixers, like get a sleeve. If I didn't have time to, well, you're going on a walk anyway. What's up?
You almost got.
What would happen if I got? What would happen if I got detained? What are you gonna do in that situation? I don't. You're like, I don't know this motherfucker at all, sir. I have no idea who this guy is. If you can give me a sleeve of Sixers of coffee or citrus, but coffee preferred. Oh yeah, here. Turn the angelic background back on. No, it's fine. This is good. Proper term for a sleeve is a log. I work with Kat's campaign. I can't go to Kat's campaign offices. I'm sorry. I can't do that today. I'm literally, in a couple hours, I'm going to be heading over to University of Chicago to do a speech. Okay? I love Kat. I think she's wonderful. She's fantastic, but I can't do that today. I'm barely getting through a couple news stories before.
Corridor to get Idan Alexander out. So we are not there yet. We don't know really. Certainly the hostage families and Palestinians, of course, as well, really hope that this is the case, that this will lead to some sort of hostage prisoner exchange and a long-lasting truce, Hallie.
And there had been some pressure on the Israeli government, Hala, for months now with these demonstrations in what's called Hostage Square there in Tel Aviv. I've seen them in my time in Israel.
The Israeli Air Force resumes airstrikes on the Gaza Strip. Palestinian media reports after a pause of several hours during the release of hostage soldier Idan Alexander. The IDF limited its activity in Gaza to enable the release of Alexander. That's fucking... Dude. The other side of the story is that this lights a fire under the asses of all of the Israelis that have been protesting against Benjamin Netanyahu. The number of protesters that are against the genocide is growing as well, which is crazy. That obviously is super, super marginal. Let's be real. But the standing together style liberal Zionists have even started demonstrating for Palestinians, which is new. It's unique. It's certainly growing. It's still again, minuscule percentage of the Israeli Jewish population, but nonetheless, every day that number is growing, and it's important. Here, every damn day at Jerusalem, anti-war protests featuring images of Gazan children, even as the IDF is striking hard in Gaza again tonight, following the release of Idan Alexander. And not only that, but the number of release the hostages people that hate Netanyahu is exploding. Okay. So there is a lot of anger and a lot of resentment as Benjamin Netanyahu actively states his overall goals for the quote unquote war, which is just genocide and permanent occupation of the Gaza Strip.
I know you have as well, as people in Israel had wanted the Netanyahu government to do more to try to get these hostages out.
Well, it's interesting. I was at...
Guy who got released is refusing to meet Netanyahu. Yeah, I wonder why. Because Netanyahu tried to kill him, dude. What do you mean? Like, yeah, I wouldn't want to either. Report, Idan Alexander suffered severe torture in captivity, was kept handcuffed in a cage, is what Times of Israel is saying. Like, and Al Jazeera is stating that he doesn't want to meet Benjamin Netanyahu. Who knows? Maybe he will. Okay? Maybe he will. We'll see. The most annoying type of person, speaking from personal experience, are those who support Netanyahu's war essentially unconditionally every step of the way, but also demand hostages be returned, basically saying the Hamas are the only ones responsible for what's happening and Israel is both not doing enough, but shouldn't change anything that they're doing. Yeah. Can you show us what U.S. Customs saw on your phone? I didn't give them my phone.
Hostage Square today, and I spoke with the father of a soldier who is still in Hamas captivity inside of the Gaza Strip. And family after family has been telling us that they want President Trump to put pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu because they believe, many of them, that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, is restarting this war for political and not strategic reasons, that he believes that if he stops the war, the extreme right-wing members of his coalition government will abandon him and his government will fall, and he will have to face some of these legal problems and criminal trials that essentially threaten his political career and, in fact, his freedom, if indeed he is not in power anymore. And so that is kind of interesting that you have this timing.
Is it? They've been saying that. What's interesting is now you're covering it, American news. It's not interesting that Israeli society's been saying that. They've written letters in the last ceasefire negotiations, there were hostage family members that wrote direct letters that were reported in Israeli media and got very little coverage in American media that stated directly not only that Benjamin Netanyahu was spoiling the fucking negotiations, but that his ambitions were for permanent war. And also on top of that, they literally singled out the policies, the spoiler provisions that Benjamin Netanyahu added last second. This wasn't like brilliant foreign policy analysts. This was just directly the fucking hostage families that wrote letters that were reported on in Israeli media that stated that Benjamin Netanyahu's last minute erroneous decision, irresponsible decision to refuse to remove troops from the Philadelphia corridor is directly done so that they can never engage in real, honest ceasefire discussions to take the hostages out. They wrote this. They said it. The Israeli hostage family said it. It's not new. It's not unique. It's not shocking. And it's only shocking if you are in this insane misinformation bubble where you're not paying close attention to anything that's going on, or rather you're omitting key details in your coverage in an effort to make it seem like what Israel's ethnic cleansing campaign is actually seemingly a justifiable campaign in and of itself. It's not.
This timing happen when it is, when you have this release of a hostage taking place without the prime minister having been involved in the negotiations and only, we understand, informed of the result of the negotiations after the fact.
Let me go back to Gabe there, who is at the White House for us. And Gabe, it is still a question mark as to whether President Trump may meet with Idan Alexander, depending on his condition, may meet with members of the Alexander family who we know have traveled and made their way to the region here. Talk us through what we expect to see from the president this week, as his administration, his top envoy here to the Middle East, has described this as just a tremendous victory, not just obviously for the Alexander family, but for the president himself.
Yeah, certainly Steve Witkoff, that envoy to the Middle East, been extremely busy over the last several weeks and months, not just with the war in Gaza, but also the war in Ukraine as well. But as you said, Idan Alexander's family potentially could meet President Trump later on this week in Qatar. Unclear if that will happen or not. We understand that will be up to Alexander's family, as well as the condition of Idan now that he's been released. But this is a major foreign trip, Hallie, for President Trump, the first of his second term. This international trip will include Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and also the United Arab Emirates. And as I was mentioning earlier, trade will be a big part of this trip. Also, we understand from White House officials that the president going there to seek deals with those countries in the Middle East, and we expect that to come up again through over the next couple of days. But there's a lot of controversy as well that we've been hearing over the last day or so. President Trump agreeing to accept a multi-million-dollar, hundreds of million-dollar jumbo jet from the Qatari government to serve potentially as the next Air Force One, and then be given to President Trump's presidential library. So we expect questions about that to come up over the next couple of days. Again, we just heard from President Trump a short time ago here at the White House. The president trying to make the case that he would be a, quote, stupid person to reject that jumbo jet because it was a gift from the Qatari government. Still questions, though, about whether there could be security implications as well from that gift. But back to this trip, Hallie, the White House is...
Yo, I love that. I think haters need to... yeah, what's good? I think haters need... Oh, you did? You are... Oh, I love you. Oh, my God. Hell yeah. Damn, that's crazy. Worse timing not to have your MAGA hat? Bro, I know. This is... I need to pack a MAGA hat for security purposes anyway when I'm, like, getting through customs. But... I need it right now. I need it for this fucking moment. Like, I need it for this moment. Let me tell you something, okay? I do not give a fuck. I can't believe I'm saying this. I do not give a fuck about Donald Trump getting bribed by the Qatar government, okay? Straight up. Bribe away, my friend. Bribe the fuck away, okay? If it's going to play a formative role in Donald Trump seeing Arabs as human beings, and maybe even playing a role in him, like, managing this situation a little bit better. Oh, Oh, I'm nutting. Okay. Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so amazing. Fuck yes. Please bribe away. I have never been more pro bribery than at this fucking moment. This bribe was just made public. That's the only difference in this issue. Oh, it's so good. It's so fucking good. How come Israel gets to fucking grease the wheels on a daily fucking basis, but Qatar is not allowed to? Suck my dick, okay?
Thrilled to see this hostage release. This is something that they have been working for quite some time, the last remaining American hostage, and they point to what they see as not just they point to what they see as a successful negotiation on the part of the administration, and certainly we expect to hear more from the president about these developments as they unfold throughout the day. The president, again, currently on his way to Saudi Arabia as we speak. Callie.
Gabe, thank you. You are looking live now at a small gathering of people along the side of the road there in southern Israel in Reem. That is where the helicopter is awaiting the Red Cross, which is bringing Idan Alexander back from the Gaza Strip into Israel. He will then be taken to that hospital in Tel Aviv, which is where we find our Hala Garani. And Hala, what does this mean now for the potential for the chances of a ceasefire moving forward?
Well, it's difficult to say because this was more of a one-off, it seems, than the result of any kind of long-term strategic discussion between the two sides. After all, Prime Minister Netanyahu was not involved in this. His negotiators were not involved in this. The U.S. administration and the Trump envoys were talking directly to Hamas. Will this put pressure on the Prime Minister of Israel to potentially back off and cancel or postpone the offensive that his security cabinet voted unanimously to carry out? Or will he believe that for his political survival, this is something that he needs to do? Those are all open questions, Hallie.
Many questions still remaining as we continue to follow this breaking news from out of the Middle East. Hala Garani, live for us in Tel Aviv. Thank you. Our thanks to Gabe Gutierrez, live at the White House as well. We will continue to monitor, of course, as the last living American hostage believed to be held in Gaza is now on his way to freedom.
Trump takes reporters' questions at press briefing after U.S.-China deal. We'll obviously cover this as well. I actually watched this live today when I was at the gym. Oh, my God. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my freaking Lord. Oh, Lordy. So, obviously, we got the tariffs. I'm not done with this, the U.S.-Israel decoupling a little bit, but one more thing to talk about with Biden, because a lot of people are asking me, hey, what do you think? What do you think about Kamala Harris now? And the reality of the matter is I've said the same thing that I said last time around, which is that, yes, Donald Trump being a brash room reading deal maker and his love for deals that make him look good is unironically playing a role in him taking decisions that the Biden administration never took on purpose. And if the Kamala administration was going to continue along, as she signaled, with the Biden administration's agenda on Israel, on the genocide that Israel was doing, then so far, depending on what Donald Trump does going forward in the next week or so, I can confidently say that it might even be better. It could be significantly worse still, because as I've said over and over again, that Donald Trump is very malleable. He's endlessly persuadable. And also doesn't give a single shit about the Palestinians, but neither did Kamala Harris. And it's more so a matter of who is willing to buck the trend of unconditional loyalty to Israel. And Donald Trump's personal character flaws might have actually played a formative role in him bucking said trend in a way that I don't think Kamala Harris or any reasonable statesman ever would. Does that make sense? Didn't he get fooled after the ceasefire in January? He let it fall apart. He didn't get fooled necessarily. I said I was very cynical. While I was, of course, complimentary and excited at the prospect of a ceasefire, regardless of how it was being conducted, I still maintained the position that, it was most likely for a sinister purpose of re-upping, rearming, and then potentially moving into the West Bank in a more significant fashion. There are a lot of factors here. There are a lot of factors here at play. Okay, there are a lot of factors here at play that I think change the calculation. for Donald Trump and cause Donald Trump to, what the fuck? Anyway, cause Donald Trump to do something that I don't think Kamala Harris or Joe Biden ever did. Joe Biden never did this, and Kamala Harris never signaled that she would do anything different than Joe Biden. Moin Rabbani, let's hear what his analysis is, says, it has been a day of dramatic developments in the Middle East, although their significance remains to be determined. Most importantly, we learned that Washington and Hamas are once again negotiating. The available reports suggest that these talks were conducted indirectly via Qatar and Egypt, and according to some reports, Turkey as well. We're at the table, shouts out, rather than consisting of renewed face-to-face meetings. It is a fair assumption that if direct U.S.-Hamas meetings had taken place, these would once again have been leaked by by Israel in an effort to scuttle them anew. At the same time, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appears to have finally realized that under Trump and his Secretary of State Steve Witkoff, Israel's leash is considerably shorter than it was under his predecessors Biden, Blinken, and Sullivan. This is 100% correct, by the way. Like, regardless of Donald Trump's statements about like ethnically cleansing the Gaza Strip and all of the fucking ridiculous shit that he has said, you also have to pay attention to what Trump has done. And what Trump has done has been directly undermining Benjamin Netanyahu's confidence, directly undermining Benjamin Netanyahu's interests. Okay? The latter, it will be recalled, left their favorite proxy free to rampage through the neighborhood without either a leash or indeed any other restraint. Witkoff's assistant deputy for DEI affairs, Marco Rubio, holds views virtually identical to Biden on Israel, but has been kept preoccupied saving the U.S. from imminent destruction by locking up college students in the swamps of Louisiana. According to both U.S. and Israeli reports, Washington, wary of Israel's determination to sabotage U.S. diplomatic initiatives that prioritize U.S. over Israeli interests, didn't inform the Israeli government about these talks until after an agreement was concluded with Hamas. It seems likely that Israel's loyalists in the Trump administration were also kept out of the loop as a precautionary measure. Recent revelations that National Security Advisor Mike Waltz was scheming with Netanyahu to unleash a war against Iran that would serve Israel's national security at the expense of that of the U.S. appears to have landed particularly badly in the White House. The specifics of the U.S.-Hamas agreement remain somewhat unclear. This is important to note as well, because like Israel keeps saying, "Oh, we're not giving anything in this. These morons, they like gave away a hostage for no reason. We're not actually going to change anything." Isn't that literally treason? Ha! Cute. Why would that be considered treason if it's done at the behest of Israel? Hello? It's just seen as a difference in opinion in American foreign policy. It's about how hard you dick ride Israel, okay, or how hard you want to bomb Iran. Mike Waltz and other State Department loyalists actually have this attitude where they're just like, they have this open perspective where they want to bomb Iran super hard, and there are some people who want to bomb Iran less hard. Okay, that's it. It's just seen as a difference in opinion. And if it's, as long as it's for Israel, it's not considered to be treason anyway, because Israel is seen, at least at this point, you must understand, Israel is not seen as a separate entity. It is seen as a part of the American design in the region, okay? But even in that process, they can get out of hand in a way where they can actually compromise America's interests. Like America might say, hey, you know, you want to cut this out a little bit. You want to dial this back a little bit. You're fucking up the bag for everybody. And Israel says, no, I'm going to keep doing it. What can you do? We have a shit ton of influence. And then America can rein Israel back in by doing stuff like this, okay? By saying, hey, no, we control all the cards here. Know your fucking place. How do you look at Jared Kushner's entire work in Trump 1 and think he's on your side? I never said that. I don't think that. Careful, reaching nuance overload, buddy. You're losing the libs. I know. I think what's really funny about this is that Trump is a malleable figure who has a hair trigger and is like gets annoyed easily. And that actually is, under normal circumstances, that plays, I mean, that can harm America's foreign policy interests. But in this situation, I think it's like causing them to decouple a little bit from the hand in glove approach that they've had so far with Israel. The specifics of a U.S.-Hamas agreement remain somewhat unclear. The only confirmed details are that Hamas will release Eden Alexander, an Israeli soldier who holds a U.S. dual citizenship, and that the Secretary of State Witkoff is traveling to Israel Monday to finalize the handover. I like that Moen Rabbani jokingly calls the secretary, the real Secretary of State, Steve Witkoff, which is understandable that he's saying that. And he calls Marco Rubio the deputy DEI director. They're basically basically keeping him. They're giving him busy work to just like try and fucking detain U.S. college students for writing articles and stuff, so that he stays busy with busy work like that. If matters proceed as planned, this will once again confirm that for Israel, the release of captives from Gaza Strip is a pretext for genocide rather than genuine political or military priority. It also visibly demonstrates that foreign governments are considerably more and more seriously invested in the efforts to repatriate their citizens than is Israel. This explains the subdued mood, to put it mildly, of the yellow ribbon crowd upon learning of the agreement to release a captive. Witkoff's statement, we want to bring hostages home, but Israel's not willing to end the war. In this regard, rightfully adds insult to injury. Steve Witkoff having that honest moment and stating that we are genuinely interested in bringing the hostages home, Israel is not, is significant. Is significant. Especially when he says that American media has to fucking report on it for once. Jesus Christ. Neither Washington nor Hamas have confirmed any of the agreement's other reported details, apart from a limited suspension of hostility so that Hamas can safely hand over its captive. Hamas's statement that it's releasing Alexander is a goodwill gesture, and statements by Trump, Witkoff, and U.S. hostage envoy Adam Baylor that the release is being conducted in good faith would appear to confirm that, formally at least, the Palestinians are receiving nothing in return. What they're receiving instead is direct talks in Qatar with America. Israel was not even interested in coming to the table until recently. Once this happened, now Israel is sending an envoy to Qatar to restart the agreements, to restart ceasefire talks. Why are they doing this? Because they don't want to let America cut a deal without Israel at the fucking table. They're gross pieces of shit. That's the reason why Eden Alexander was released today. Do you understand? So now the very same Netanyahu that spent yesterday crying and saying like, oh, we got to really reconsider our security cooperation, we got to sanitize our security agreement with the United States of America, will now turn around and try to take credit for it. Okay? Netanyahu is claiming credit and saying, oh, we played a role in this. Meanwhile, he never actually played a role in this. He literally actively undermined this deal from happening. Don't forget. May 11 source, U.S. didn't brief Israel on efforts to free Eden Alexander until after a deal was reached. Oh my God. While Hamas's insistence that captives will only be released in the context of an agreement has once again been validated, receiving nothing in return would seem to make this a rather hollow achievement. From its perspective, it is presumably hoping to use this agreement with Washington to increase Israeli domestic political pressure on the Israeli government to reach a new deal, and hoping to generate renewed U.S. pressure on Netanyahu to the same end. It presumably also came under massive pressure from regional capitals to conclude this deal at any cost before Trump touches down in Saudi capital of Riyadh this week. There may be, however, also more to the story. Since the 2nd of March, Israel has imposed an unprecedented siege on the population of the Gaza Strip with zero objection from Washington. Since the 18th of March, Israel has additionally conducted one of its fiercest military assaults on the territory since October 2023, to which the Trump administration has responded with a mixture of support and silence. This was all made possible because Witkoff, who forced Israel to accept the ceasefire agreement in January, during February-March double-crossed Hamas by changing the terms of the agreement after the parties had accepted its terms, and giving Israel license to renounce it when Hamas rejected his machinations. It seems reasonable to assume that Israel convinced Witkoff and Trump it could make a short shrift of Hamas if given one more opportunity, but this time without the purported restraints previously imposed by Biden that prevented Israel from achieving a decisive victory. The problem for Israel is that its military once again proved to be an effective and efficient killing machine, but only a mediocre fighting force, particularly in ground combat. It's one thing to raze cities to the ground, murder scores of civilians, starve an entire population, and dress up in women's lingerie, and quite another to eradicate a well-entrenched guerrilla force, even one as poorly resourced as Hamas. Israel once again repeatedly proclaimed victory while failing to achieve it. From Washington's perspective, Israel has failed to deliver and failed to uphold its end of the bargain. I think this is probably one of the more restrained and reasonable assessments of the situation, because it recognizes that the Trump administration, time and time again, allowed Israel to do its death and destruction campaign. Moin Rabbani is brilliant. And I think that it showcases, because there are, like, people want black and white terms on this stuff. Right? They want, oh, Trump no longer believes in Israel. He fucking hates Israel. Or Trump got annoyed by Israel and like wanted to cut a side deal with Hamas directly. But the reality of the matter is you have to look at the totality. of the decisions and what the American government has said and done thus far. And you have to also look at the actions. You have to look at the actions that they've taken place, or their inaction rather. And yes, they allowed Israel to do this insane big push for the past 2 months, bombing Gaza relentlessly while simultaneously starving the entire Gazan population. And they didn't say a single fucking thing about that, as everyone was screaming about this annihilationist principle that they were applying, that Israel was applying in the Gaza Strip. So that's important to take note of. So perhaps, maybe from the Trump perspective, this looks like the Ukrainian counteroffensive. Not to say there's no moral equivalence between Ukraine and Israel, by the way. I'm simply saying that it might have been seen from the Trump administration as like Israel saying that they're going to achieve their war goals and failing to do so with the time frame that was given to Israel, and therefore Trump was like, all right, I'm cutting a side deal. You're fucking done. What you're telling me is increasingly impossible. With Trump's state visit to several Gulf countries imminent, the images of emaciated and dying children in the Gaza Strip and of many more dismembered by U.S. Supplied high explosives on a daily basis needed to be addressed. That's where the agreement with Hamas came in. In this context, reports that Witkoff intends to resurrect the January agreement may well be credible. It is certainly plausible that Hamas received informal U.S. assurances to this effect, and plausible such assurances, if indeed provided, will prove to be worthless. The problem is that this could all prove a repeat of what we experienced in January, February of this year. This is a real fear. This is why I'm skeptical as well, where they come back and they say, oh yeah, we want a ceasefire actually. We're going to get Israel to the table. We're going to get Israel to do a ceasefire, and then tell them, all right, go kill as many people as you want. We don't give a shit, right? That is a real fear here. I think that's a understandable and reasonable fear to hold on to in this situation. Back then, Trump forced the ceasefire down Netanyahu's throat, not as a part of a diplomatic strategy to end Israel's war, but as a temporary fix to ensure smooth inauguration, highlighted by a political achievement Biden had been too timid to secure. Once the inauguration was over, the new admin quickly lost interest. In other words, it is entirely possible we'll be back to square one once Trump takes to the skies to fly back to Washington. Israel has repeatedly announced that it intends to escalate its genocidal campaign, yet further if no agreement is reached by the conclusion of Trump's visit. It will therefore be only a matter of days before we learn whether Trump and Witkoff will permit Israel to make good on its intention to prevent any new agreement so that it can escalate yet further. If Washington calls the Israeli offensive off, it would be a sign it's finally serious about bringing this horrific ordeal to an end. So we have to sit and wait for the conclusion of Trump's Middle Eastern trip to see if Israel will go full-scale bloody murder final solution and ramp up its final solution, which has been doing, or whether or not they will dial it back, and then and that will mean that Donald Trump is actually serious. The Trump administration is actually serious about scaling back Israel's atrocities. Trump's tea leaves are particularly difficult to read given the erratic and impulsive nature of the man. But in contrary to January, his relations with Netanyahu have clearly deteriorated, and Arab states are, since Trump's unveiled his harebrained Gaza Riviera proposal, more engaged than at any point since October 2023. Not much more, but enough to place it on Trump's radar. Israel's challenge is that Trump's Arab host can offer Washington a panoply of benefits, while Israel can do little more than to pay for the many billions of freebies it receives from U.S. on an annual. Not an ideal position to be in with a proudly transactional administration. The glass is both half full and half empty, while overflowing with Palestinian blood. Call me a cynic. I think he's going to get his plane, get his one hostage to try and help his ailing approval ratings, and then he's going to let Israel do whatever he wants and pick at what's left of the bones, i.e. the Riviera of the Middle East. Potentially. There is also the depravity of Gulf states here as well that you need to calculate, that you need to remember. The Gulf states and their leadership do not care about the Palestinians. They care about deal making. The only reason why they ostensibly care about the Palestinians is because the Gulf state populations, the Arabs living in the Gulf states, do care about the Palestinians. So you're actively getting clip chimped. What? On what? And also, who cares? Dude, Dude, I'm getting clip chimped every day, and my clip chimps are actually unironically putting me at odds with federal agencies at this point. I don't care, okay? Maybe I'll get fucking apprehended and detained. Who cares? Jean-Luc Mélenchon just released your interview titled The Most Interesting American I've Ever Met. Oh my God, what an honor. Yeah, breaking news, dude. Breaking news. People are fucking lying and people are trying to actively dilute my perspective by misrepresenting my positions on a complex subject matter that requires nuanced thinking. Oh, well, what will I do? Once again, as always, you need to, here's what you need to do, okay? When you encounter someone in the wild, when you encounter someone in the fucking wild that is like, that's been deluded by this kind of thing, just tell them to watch the stream or tell them to watch a fucking full YouTube video. They will be able to understand that they've been duped pretty easily, okay? No amount of clip chimping is going to cause people to, like, no amount of clip chimping and bad faith smears is going to cause people to go, oh, if they watch the full video, to go, oh, yeah, okay, this guy I was duped about. You know, I was lied to about this guy.
This morning, I was communicating with a leader within the Palestinian armed resistance, and he was saying, look, Hamas is taking a gamble here by making this deal for Idan Alexander because they're not getting anything on paper in return that we know of. None of my sources have said that the U.S. committed to anything. And the calculus here on their part is, it relates to what I was saying earlier. They feel that their best shot right now is to try to accentuate the divisions on a tactical level between Netanyahu and Trump in the hopes that Trump then will ultimately force Netanyahu to end the war. That's the gamble that Hamas has taken. Their broader position is we will not release a single Israeli captive unless there is a deal that leads to a permanent ceasefire and the full withdrawal of Israeli forces. I spoke to a senior Hamas official last week about these aid plans that you're talking about, and he said, no one has consulted with us about this. We're not involved with this. And the dime's worth of difference between the Israeli position and Trump's position on how aid should be administered ultimately plays to Israel's agenda. Now, there's also discussion that there may be a summit involving the Palestinian Authority president, Mahmoud Abbas, who's 89 years old, incredibly unpopular, is viewed by Hamas and, in fact, many Palestinians as a collaborator with Israel. It's possible that Trump is going to try to make some deal that circumvents both Israel and Hamas and Islamic Jihad and try to say, well, we're going to make a deal with Mahmoud Abbas. There's a lot of complicated politics behind that. So I would say, Crystal, that what Trump is trying to do with his proposal for having a so-called NGO, which really isn't an NGO, it seems, as you indicated, it's more like a Paul Bremer Coalition Provisional Authority type Iraq 2.0. What Trump is sort of trying to do is get enough aid to say, I'm doing something into the country, but not really linking it to an end to the war.
Are we finishing the Context Puke fundraiser? Chatter, do you think I have time to do that today? No, not today. Maybe tomorrow. If there is less news, okay? Sometime this week, potentially.
Which ultimately is what Netanyahu wants. So, let's see. I mean,
and yes, I will have Jeremy Scale on again. I talked to him this morning.
Hamas, I think, has shown an ability to really hold out despite the massive human consequences. And I don't see them just folding because Donald Trump wants photo ops in the Middle East. I think we're still in for quite a battle, both diplomatically and potentially militarily on the ground. Now, look, what Netanyahu has responded to all of this in public, all of these reports about Trump and Hamas, Trump and Ansar Allah in Yemen, as
I wound up talking about you when I got back in touch with old friend people who literally just repeat points from drama slop tubers, but will walk them back once a reasonable person argues against them. Yes, also, the greatest antidote to those vicious smears is just showing the full context. Okay, that's it. You remember that. Okay, Hassan in detainment. Okay, chill. That's not what it looked like.
As sort of saying, well, we're going to go in and conquer all of Gaza. We're going to take all of Gaza. We're going to force the Palestinians into the south, and then we're going to have to try to figure out what third countries are going to take them. So he's really telegraphing, I want to continue this genocide. The question is Trump willing to actually rein him in a serious way, Or is Trump going to try to have it both ways, let it be a little bit calmer for some months, and then it all blows up again, which is basically what happened with the January ceasefire deal?
Hasanabi is a coward. Okay, chatter. I am streaming my speech today, yes. Clip chimping a zombie like socialist grifter makes fun of his illiterate father. Me and said I can't read this kid. Okay. All right, let's continue. Where was I? So as far as my analysis on like what would be different under the Harris administration, I don't know. I mean, in terms of like a lot of the domestic affairs, yes, the Harris administration would not be as fucking belligerent as the Trump administration is. I don't think the Harris administration would be utilizing ICE in the way that like I don't think I'd be detained. Actually, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be detained under the Harris administration, but then again, I don't know, right? Because if you look at what Dana Nessel was doing, she actually prosecuted American citizens in Michigan, student campus protesters and activists in Michigan, which is a blue state under a blue rulership of a blue fucking governor, okay? And the reality of the matter is Harris never actively said that she would take a different role and change trajectory from Biden on this issue, okay? So even if she were to do so, it is a major mistake that she never revealed that she would, right? It was costly. It cost her the election, straight up. So yeah, well, Biden earned the cynical take. My sense is he wanted a ceasefire after May 2024, far too late to his outdated ideological hidebound view of the politics of the region kept him from imposing necessary pressure on Netanyahu to get it. Like, Matt Duss is being far too nice to the Biden admin here. I don't think he fucking ever was serious about this, okay? Never forget that the Democrats actively handed the keys to the fucking castle to this like incompetent fascist administration because of how much they wanted Israel to keep doing death and destruction. Do you get deported now? No, dude. I'm an American citizen. What the fuck do you mean? Where am I going to get deported to? New Jersey? Yeah, they actively lied to the American population to make it seem like they were working tirelessly around the clock for a fucking ceasefire, when in fact new reporting on the matter from the Israeli side shows that that wasn't the case. Okay? So, yeah, this is directly from the mouth of Hamas. This step comes after important contacts in which Hamas demonstrated positivity and high flexibility. We affirm that serious and responsible negotiations achieve results in the release of prisoners. However, continuing the aggression prolongs their suffering and may kill them. We affirm the movement's readiness to immediately begin negotiations to reach a comprehensive and sustainable ceasefire agreement, including the withdrawal of the occupation army and the end of the siege, a prisoner exchange, and the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. We urge the Trump administration to continue its efforts to end this brutal war waged by the war criminal Netanyahu against children, women, and the defenseless civilians in the Gaza Strip. Islamic Resistance Movement, Hamas. So their statement was basically that we did this in good faith. We did a good faith hostage release because America kickstarted the negotiations. So, you know, who knows? But I do like that E.L. Jacoby is pissed. The people who obsess over AIPAC every day are suddenly silent on this. I support President Trump, but if this report is true, I'm deeply disappointed. Qatar isn't an ally. They're jihadists in designer suits who help 9/11 masterminds evade U.S. justice. Bro, here's what I don't understand. Like, Saudi Arabia is a valuable ally to Israel. Like, they literally did 9/11. You know what I mean? I don't see you having this kind of smoke for Saudi Arabia for some fucking weird reason, you know? Also, whenever people try to play fast and loose with FARA designations, remind them that the reason why the Israeli foreign contributions do not show up in the same way that foreign lobbying money shows up for Qatar, for example, is because Israel doesn't have that FARA designation. Pro-Israel groups can operate inside of U.S. boundaries without registering as foreign agents. That is the reality, okay? Whereas Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and every other country has to register as foreign agents. Now, some people play fast and loose with that designation. It's common practice in D.C. to not register as a foreign agent while still working at the behest of foreign governments. They do it all the fucking time. And you know, sometimes they even get popped for it. But, you know, please don't pick up the soap in El Salvador. Do you get deported now? If you get deported, you could reenact One Piece in Somalia. Don't give Tyrone the opportunity. Dude, why are my fucking haters such insanely racist people? Please don't pick up the soap in El Salvador. Don't give Tyrone an opportunity. Like, why are you fantasizing about rape? Like, why is that in your mind? Why is that like, you're such a fucking weirdo, dude. God damn. Anyway, the first for a U.S. in recent memory. One Trump advisor described Trump's treatment of Netanyahu as one notch above his White House meeting with Zelensky and said influential MAGA voices have worked throughout the spring to resist efforts by pro-Israel lobbying groups and neoconservative Republicans to install Iran hawks and others seen as overly sympathetic to Netanyahu in key national security posts. From the Washington Post. Trump repeatedly bypasses Netanyahu's stoking display among Israelis. Yeah. Anyone who speaks about Qatar this way should also simultaneously be calling for the United States to immediately begin the process of shutting down its military base in Qatar, the largest U.S. military base in the Middle East. Why should the United States have over 10,000 personnel in Qatar, along with some of its most sensitive and valuable military equipment, if Qatar is such an untrustworthy country? Harsh critics of Qatar rarely call for this. Anyway. All right, let's move on to our big, beautiful deal maker. Once again, making big, beautiful deals. Let's talk about China. Donald Trump, as I told you he would, has come to the table with China. And I told you China would also extend, as I told you, an olive branch to make it seem as though they could go back to business as usual. And that is where we're at now with Donald Trump and China. The tariffs conversation is finally reaching a manageable landing point. And the markets are screaming for it. Okay, let's take a look.
Forever. But over the last 10 years, they've been very difficult for other countries. Nobody was able to do what we did. But they stopped, and we take their word for it. Their surrogates and them directly said, we don't want to do this anymore. And so we were satisfied with that. In addition, yesterday we achieved a total reset with China after productive talks in Geneva. Both sides now agreed to reduce the tariffs imposed after April 2nd to 10% for 90 days as negotiators continue on the largest structural issues. And I want to tell you that a couple of things. First of all, that doesn't include the tariffs that are already.
For the record, the reason why he's doing this is because, one, Trump loves fucking shit up and then trying to restore what he fucked up and then try to secure a victory that way. That's the art of the deal. That's a classic Trump. Okay? Like, you make a play, you destabilize, and then you fold. But in the process of folding, people go, okay, well, at least you didn't fuck up everything. Like, thank God he brought this back. And that's the real art of the deal. Okay? That is the real art of the deal. That's how he is. That's basically how he's conducted himself over and over again, right? Luckily, he's saving the Labubu market for Cutie Cinderella, so shouts out to that. So there's that. Art of the deal, art of the steal. Now, with China, the efforts here are numerous. He wants to decouple our other trading partners from China. He does not want China to be a manufacturing hub. But the real stress point here wasn't necessarily the counter tariffs that China actually implemented to the United States of America. The real pressure point was China's effective trade embargo on key minerals that are necessary for American defense. That made things very unstable. That actually became a matter of national security. Okay? When China said, well, we have refinement capabilities. We have a monopoly on refinement for rare earth minerals that are necessary for a million different components that you need to build in the United States of America for your defense industry. All of a sudden, this became a real issue, okay? This became a matter of national security. So for Trump, he had to fix that problem, a problem that he created for no reason, that nobody asked for. So here we are.
That are our tariffs, and it doesn't include tariffs on cars, steel, aluminum, things such as that, or tariffs that may be imposed on pharmaceuticals, because we want to bring the pharmaceutical businesses back to the United States, and they're already starting to come back now based on tariffs because they don't want to pay 25, 50, or 100% tariffs, so they're moving them back to the United States. I spoke to Tim Cook this morning, and he's going to, I think, even up his numbers, $500 billion. He's going to be building a lot of plants in the United States for Apple, and we look forward to that. I really do look forward to that. But the talks in Geneva were very friendly. The relationship is very good. We're not looking to hurt China. China was being hurt very badly. They were closing up factories. They were having a lot of unrest. And they were very happy to be able to do something with us. And the relationship is very, very good. I'll speak to President Xi maybe at the end of the week. We have some other things we're doing. But one of the biggest things that we're doing, and I don't know if people realize this, but we made a great deal with China, a great trade deal. But it was a much bigger deal originally, and then they canceled it right in the last day. Some of you faces I remember were there when that happened. I remember you. And we had a deal where they opened up their country to trade with the United States. And they took that away at the last moment, and then I canceled the whole thing. And then 6 months later, we ended up doing a smaller deal. But it was a big deal. It was $50 billion worth of product that they were going to.
Yeah, here's Charles Gasparino from Fox Business, by the way, the man who has been incredibly critical of Trump's tariff regime throughout this entire process, says, breaking, in talking to sources who run small business, the pause with China came just as their companies were on the precipice of disaster since they sourced so much of their material from China, and the containers coming from China were coming back empty. If you want to know why we were as desperate for a deal as the Chinese, it's because small business, a key MAGA constituency, was about to get crushed. This is the other side of the story as well. This guy is still talking about Kamala. The entire chat is about hypotheticals such as massive labor movement when the guy in charge right now hates union labor. Yeah, hypotheticals about what could have made her won. But even hypotheticals are not absolute enough for you, so it isn't good. Look, chatter, take it up with the Kamala campaign, okay? Can you go on LOLCal Live tonight? What the fuck is that? Is that the Keemstar show? Don't you feel embarrassed to come in here and say that you're like an active participant? You're an active consumer of Keemstar's content? I'm going to be honest with you, chatter. You should be. Like, you should be incredibly embarrassed. The fuck? God damn. So many fucking losers online. And what's worse is they feel emboldened. Where is the shame? Yeah, this is my favorite. I'm voting for Donald Trump for the economy and to own the libs. Well, there went my shoe business. I don't understand why the tariffs have to eliminate the de minimis exemption. Why does government punish small businesses in the country knowing full well that Nike and all the big brands will be fine paying the taxes, but Steffi and I get wiped out? All the crazies really are coming out lately, and common sense seems lost a lot of them time. Yeah, common sense not so common. So tariffs are still not gone, by the way. So these guys will still suffer, just not as much. It is no longer like a de facto trade embargo, but there's still issues.
The rest of the
okay. Every major trader and investor I spoke to today said markets are ripping, not because Trump crafted some great art of the deal with China on trade. Rather, we are back to square one with the country and kicking the tariff war can down the road that averts stagflation in the short term and maybe longer if we get a deal 90 days. Yes, markets love trade capitulation. Yeah, it's the Trump fuck up / subsequent cleanup. This is precisely what's taken place. No U.S. citizen should be detained by law enforcement at the border or anywhere because of their protected speech. ICE and CBP are the enemies domestic that federal officials swear an oath to defend against. Okay, Ari Cohn, First Amendment and defamation lawyer, lead counselor for tech policy from the FIRE org. You were in the news in Puerto Rico for what? Just a question out of curiosity. Are you in any way, shape, or form scared for your safety given recent events happening in the U.S.? No. Stop asking me this question, please. No, I'm not. Attacks against me from the federal government for exercising my First Amendment rights is not going to stop me. Okay? It's not. It's ridiculous. Why the fuck would I capitulate? Fuck them. And you shouldn't either. Do not obey in advance. We still have some norms and a crumb of institutional power here. So until the First Amendment protections are completely eroded, I will do everything in my power to keep speaking truth to power. Anyway, let's continue.
Purchase from our farmers, etc. And we agreed to that. People thought it was 15 because they were doing 15. We made it 50 because I misunderstood the 15. I thought I said, you got to get 50. Because when I asked, if you remember the story, when I asked, what are we doing with them? My Secretary of Agriculture at the time, Sonny Perdue, said, sir, it's about 15 billion and we're asking for 15. And I thought he said 50. So I said, so they came back with the deal at 15. And I said, no way, I want 50. Because you said 50. They said, sir, we didn't say that. Anyway, bottom line, I said, go back and ask for 50, and they gave us 50. And they were honoring the deal. And we would call them up a lot for the corn and for the wheat and for everything. They were honoring the deal. And then when Biden got in, they no longer honored the deal. There was nobody to call. I would call on an average of once every 2 weeks to say, come on, you have to speed it up a little bit. And our farmers were doing great. I said to them, buy more land and bigger tractors, if you remember. That's what happened. But the deal was a very good deal. But the best part of the deal was that we opened up China. China agreed to open itself up to American business to go in. And it would have been a great thing, I think, for China. They would be able to see things that they haven't seen. They would be able to buy products that they had never been able to buy. Would have been great for American business. I think it would have brought unity between China, better unity between China and the United States. And the bottom line is that they canceled it the last day. We were all set to sign it. And I went a little bit angry. I got a little angry. I said, they canceled the deal. The deal was done. It was all ready to be signed. And people went over. They came back to me, sir, they don't want to sign the opening up China. Well, the biggest thing that we're discussing is the opening up China. And they've agreed to do that. But it's going to take a while to paper it. You know, that's not the easiest thing to paper. But that's the single, I think, to me, some people would disagree. Some people would say we're getting a lot of money with tariffs or whatever. But, you know, especially when you add what we already have.
What the fuck are you saying, man? All right, I'm going to skip this. Let's see.
So the latest on...
Let's get to the actual analysis because I can't listen to him fucking ramble on. All right. So... some of the major goals here some of the stated goals here are obviously very different than what the actual goals were. The actual goals were to try to apply pressure to China's other trade partners that we also trade with in an effort to decouple them from China. And he did not reach any success on that, as far as I understand, considering that everyone was like, well, okay, we'll buy your salmonella chicken, but like, we're not going to fucking stop trading with a major manufacturing hub. Okay. As far as capitulating and dialing back the tariffs regime, I mean, he didn't really get anything in return. So this was an incredibly, just an incredibly stupid thing that he did. That was an exercise in futility. And as I told you, China would come to the table to after a period of instability, that every outlet is going to present as China caving to the brave and mighty American art of the deal guy, Donald Trump, as the New York Times did this morning, predictably. China is now coming back to the table to reassert stability in terms of global trade.
President's trade war, and news breaking overnight that China and the U.S. have reached a short-term agreement. Our senior political correspondent, Rachel Scott, is tracking the latest on this trade deal. Good morning, Rachel.
Michael, good morning to you. And this is a breakthrough in talks between the world's two largest economies, but it's also a dramatic retreat from President Trump's 145% tariffs that he imposed on Chinese imports. After all of the tough talk and hard lines, both sides agreeing to dramatically roll back their tariffs, at least for now. This morning, the Trump administration emerging from a marathon weekend of negotiations, announcing the U.S. has reached a trade deal with China to significantly lower most tariffs for 90 days.
We have reached an agreement on a 90-day pause and substantially moved down the tariff levels.
The U.S. agreed to roll back its steep 145% tariff on Chinese imports to 30%.
There is something really interesting about how the New York Times very quickly wrote a report on how China was on the verge of failure and on the verge of collapse, and that Donald Trump's actions actually caused them to capitulate and come to the table and backtrack on everything. And it's like, I don't know how you can see it as that. Also, you are the motherfucking New York Times. Why are you saying that? Okay, here's Bloomberg Business with a very different and clear-cut approach, and saying Xi Jinping's decision to stand his ground against Donald Trump could hardly have gone any better for the Chinese leader. He did. This is why, look, there are brilliant analysts who are incredibly well-read, but one thing actually ruins their perspective, and that is their inherent Western bias, their refusal to understand how the Chinese government operates, and their refusal to ever entertain China as a reasonable state actor instead of like this belligerent state that is constantly on the verge of collapse. I'm telling you right now, this is the reason why a lot of Western analysts who are incredibly well-read routinely fucking fail to call this shit in the way that someone, myself, not as well-read, total dumbass, himbo, can actually call ahead of time what is going to take place. Okay? I'm not like brilliant or anything. I don't have the gift of foresight. I simply am looking at the situation and not assuming that China is on the fucking verge of collapse as this like despotic dictatorship that's gonna crumble any day now. Okay, that's it. I'm not a fucking oracle. So why is the New York Times still doing this shit? Why is the New York Times still making it seem like this is a major W for Donald Trump? Because that's what they did. The Daily basically did that today. At odds with the reality, at odds with everything that we have seen thus far, and also at odds with like other analysts that aren't playing this line. Yeah, this is the article title. This was the New York Times assessment. A vulnerable China comes to the table.
So, have you?
The negotiations between China and the U.S. have implications for a global economy rocked by President Trump's tariffs. What a stupid way to cover this. What a stupid and wrong way to just use the paper of record to do normalization for a abnormal president. It blows my mind, okay? New York Times journalists also said Trump receiving a plane isn't corruption. This is not specifically quid pro quo. It is corruption, and I'm here for it, by the way. Who blinked first? How the U.S. and China broke their trade deadlock? Wait, what did the Financial Times say? I want to see, because I do trust the Financial Times. Probably one of the best newspapers. I'd be shocked if they actually took an approach that said, like, do we have an archived paywall post for this? Hold on. Paywall remover. Let's see. Financial Times is probably the best newspaper. I'll be honest with you. Like, out of all of the major newspapers, they are the one that routinely has done fantastic coverage both on Gaza. What is happening here? Okay. All right. The first meeting to break the U.S.-China trade deadlock was held almost 3 weeks ago in the basement of the IMF headquarters, arranged under cover of secrecy. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who was attending the IMF spring meetings in Washington, met China's Finance Minister Lao Fuan to discuss the near-complete breakdown in trade between the world's two biggest economies, according to people familiar with the matter. The previously unreported encounter was the first high-level meeting between U.S. and Chinese officials since Donald Trump's inauguration and the launch of his tariff war. The talks culminated this weekend in Geneva with Bessent and He Lifeng, China's vice premier, agreeing a ceasefire that would slash respective tariffs by 115 percentage points for 90 days. Despite both sides warning that they are willing to dig in for the long haul, the truce proved easier and faster to agree than expected. One overriding question has significant implications for the negotiations to come. Did Beijing or Washington flinch first? Trump on Monday claimed victory, saying he had engineered a total reset with China. Bro, you started it. Dude, this is the same exact thing that Trump dick riders did initially, where Trump dick riders were like, oh, tariffs are going to be good, actually. And then when he reversed all the universal tariffs that he had slapped on and like lowered them to 10%, he was like, art of the deal, sir. It's like, okay, why did you want the tariffs initially if you're going to say art of the deal when he dials back? Like, what the fuck? Meanwhile, Hu Zhijing, the former editor of the National Communist Party tabloid, The Global Times, said on social media that the deal was a great victory for China. The U.S. has chickened out, said one popular Chinese social media post of the deal. Economists agreed that the U.S. might have overplayed its hand by raising the tariffs too quickly and too high. The U.S. blinked first, said Alicia Garcia Herrero, chief Asia-Pacific economist at French investment bank Natixis. It thought it could raise tariffs almost infinitely without being hurt, but that hasn't been proven right. The U.S. and China had each argued that the other was more vulnerable to the tariffs, but the speed with which they unwound the levies in Geneva suggested the trade war was inflicting severe pain on both sides, she added. A hard decoupling of the world's two largest economies was threatening job losses for Chinese workers and higher inflation and empty shelves for American consumers. Craig Singleton of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, a think tank, God, the worst, by the way, FDD is awful. A think tank in Washington said it was striking how quickly the deal had emerged, suggesting that both sides are more economically boxed in than they let on. While Beijing stood toe-to-toe with Washington in fighting Trump's tariffs, Chinese negotiators still have more work to do to level the playing field. The U.S. still retains much higher tariffs on China than on any other country. Capital Economics calculated that the total U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods would remain about 40% after the ceasefire, with Chinese tariffs on the U.S. would be about 25%. Experts also warned it would be a hard road to secure any agreement that would be more lasting. For the record, and I said this already, China, remember, I told you, China, after a period of instability, showing the rest of the fucking global leaders who is actually the unstable, belligerent, hegemonic power here, okay, will then come to the table and offer concessions to make Trump feel good. Give Trump a make nice, okay, in order to restore stability to global trade, which, of course, Trump is refusing to do regardless. He seemingly is still invested in like this decoupling. The U.S.-China trade negotiations are going to be like a roller coaster, says Scott Kennedy, a China expert at CSIS, a think tank. Markets can breathe a temporary sigh of relief, but we're nowhere near out of the woods. Ahead of the talks, Bessent had warned that the high level of tariffs was not sustainable and amounted to an effective embargo on U.S.-China trade. The ceasefire at least narrowed the gap sufficiently for China's extremely price-competitive manufacturers to remain in business with the U.S. Alfredo Montefar-Hilu, head of the China Center of the Conference Board think tank in New York, said it would have been impossible for Chinese producers to offset 145% tariffs imposed by the U.S., but at 30%, I think most Chinese imports in the U.S. would regain their competitiveness. Before the talks in Geneva, Bessent had said the two sides were unlikely to reach a broad economic and trade deal, saying they needed to de-escalate before we can move forward. But on Monday, he struck an optimistic note, hinting that Washington might be looking for the type of purchase agreements that characterized the initial phase of the U.S.-China trade war during Trump's first term. These involved Beijing agreeing to buy quantities of commodities such as soybeans and the U.S. manufactured goods, but they were disrupted by the pandemic. There will also be a possibility of purchase agreements to pull what is our largest bilateral trade deficit into balance, Bessent said. Bessent and Greer also sounded positive. Like, what are they going to do? Buy all the soybeans readily available? Like, oh, yeah. Your pro-China propaganda is sickening. Oh, yeah. Keep getting sick, chatter. Are you saying the Financial Times is doing pro-China propaganda and it's making you sick? Should I lie to you and act like this situation was actually totally manageable and Trump was a brilliant trade deal maker? I don't understand. Like, what do people want me to do? Lie to them? Is that what you think is better to do here? To tell you a lie? To act like Donald Trump breaking global trade because he was bored was actually really good? Listen up, President Xi. I'm sorry. Based. That's the real, yeah, if you want someone to fucking tell you, serve you a lie about how awesome and brilliant Trump is, Asmongold's down the road, you know? Next door. He's next door serving that good slop that people want to hear. Seemingly, a lot of people would rather be deluded into knowing, believing in a completely alternative reality than to make a assessment on cold, hard truths. The upside surprise for me this weekend was the level of Chinese engagement on the fentanyl crisis. He said the Chinese delegation included an official who had very robust and highly detailed discussions with someone from the U.S. National Security Team. For Beijing, a fentanyl deal could erase 20 percentage points of remaining tariffs imposed by Trump, placing China roughly on a level playing field with other countries exporting to the U.S. China would still face the fentanyl stuff is the funniest. I know you seeing these. Dude, it's my most annoying. Okay, here, take a week off. I'm sorry. One of the things that annoys me the most is like when chatters go, I know you saw my post. I know you saw my post. Respond to me. There's 40,000 people in here, man. Jesus Christ. Asman briefly floated suing me. Wait, what? For what? He says you defame him? About what? I defame him for what? Saying that he doesn't take a shower? No judge is going to look at that situation and go, yeah, this is actually defamation. Judges are going to look at that and be like, dude, are you fucking serious? Are you fucking serious? Come on, dog. I don't think you take a shower either. What do you mean? Are you going to sue me next? I'm the judge here. Yeah, judge is going to take one look at that and be like, yeah, based. It's funny to see Asmongold also turn into Ethan Klein, like trying to be litigious and shit. Has your detention made you more empathetic towards the imprisoned? What are you talking about, dude? My conditions were not the same as someone who's in prison. Also, I'm already maximum empathetic to people who are in prison, so. Anyway, where was I? Let's continue. Even with this the fentanyl stuff. The fentanyl stuff is extra funny. The fentanyl stuff is extra funny because like virtually everyone knows the fentanyl stuff is just bullshit. Like it's not bullshit that fentanyl is coming into the United States of America, but it is like a bullshit reason to try and start a trade war. You know what I mean? So everyone is basically trying to be like, listen, big dog. We got you. We'll do this thing that you want us to do. We'll really deal with the fence stuff. Even with this respite, economists caution that the bilateral relationship will remain troubled, with Trump's unpredictable policymaking expected to drive China to continue to diversify its exports market and try to stimulate more domestic demand. Chinese exporters were also probably use the 90-day window for negotiation to front-load more exports in the U.S., which could lead to another surge in China's trade surplus with the country. A durable resolution remains challenging, given the complex bilateral relationship, said Robin Xing, economist at Morgan Stanley, in a note. Anyway. China is Trump is doing expert level tactics. Congratulations, sir. Thank you so much for scaling back the onslaught of global trade for no discernible reason.
China agreeing to lower its tax on American goods from 125% to 10%. For weeks, the president has been defiant about keeping his tariffs in place, even as markets tumbled and retailers warned their shelves could go empty.
I know what the hell I'm doing. I know what I'm doing, and you know what I'm doing, too.
China took a hard line, too, insisting no matter how long the trade war lasts, will never yield. But just as both sides touched down in Geneva, Switzerland for those high-stakes talks, the president with a change in tone, suggesting he would be willing to drop his tariffs even lower to 80%. The deal the U.S. reached is much lower than that.
We concluded that we have shared interest. The consensus from both delegations this weekend is neither side wants a decoupling.
On Wall Street, stock futures surging as the U.S. and China return back to the negotiating table in hopes of reaching a long-term deal. So investors are rejoicing this morning, but the full economic impact of this on and off again trade war still remains very unclear at this point. That question will be answered likely in 90 days as these two sides continue their negotiations, Michael.
Yeah, still a lot of that is still unclear, Rachel. But Rachel, the president posting on social media that he will sign an executive order aimed at lowering prescription drug costs.
Yes, Michael, the president says he'll be signing that executive order in just a few hours before he heads off on this foreign trip. It is aimed at lowering the price of prescription drugs. The goal here to force pharmaceutical companies to charge the U.S.
This was, first of all, it's so funny for Donald Trump to try to do this through tariffs, which is, of course, inflationary. But also, the reason why pharmaceutical drug costs are so expensive in America is because we don't have mass purchasing. And up until recently, it was already illegal. Like, it was illegal for even the VA, which is one of the only nationalized healthcare structures that exists. It was illegal for the VA until Obama to even fucking lower pharmaceutical price at the point of purchase through mass purchases. We are the only country on the fucking planet that does not engage in this process, by the way, in the developed world and even in the underdeveloped world. So if you want to actually lower pharmaceutical costs, which I'm on board with, oh my God, 100%, you have to force the pharmaceutical companies to lower the costs at the point of purchase. You have to literally tell them, like, you can't do this. You cannot increase prices. China does it. Everybody does it. It's not unique to China at all. He has to implement. Look, medicine is an inelastic. Medicine has inelastic demand. Okay, which means inelastic demand means that the price can be erroneously increased, and people still need it regardless. Because if they don't get it, they fucking die. So people will pay whatever price you set for it, or they die. So the only thing you could do in this process is either restructure the way that the American government purchases all medicine and create some semblance of socialized medicine structure so that there is bargaining agreements at the point of purchase when you're mass purchasing for the country, as is the case with every fucking country on the planet, by the way. Virtually every country on the planet does this. Like, this is not a crazy socialistic, idealistic, fucking utopian communist argument, okay? Every country does this, except for the United States of America. Or, if you can't do that because you don't want to do socialized medicine, you have to implement price controls. That's it. Hold on. I'm getting blown up by journalists that are all writing about the ICE detention situation. But that vid where the Chinese government walks in and throws their dick on the table and just tells them no is so good. Yeah, bulk purchasing of medicine is literally how 99% of countries get their medicine into the consumer market. It's crazy that the U.S. doesn't do that. And the only area where they actually do engage in bulk purchasing is is Veterans Affairs, because that is the only thing that is like resembling a nationalized structure. And there are a lot of complications for the VA, obviously, because like their entire insured pool is deeply fucking sick because they're veterans, right? You get fucked up during basic training. So there is no way to leverage the healthy pool that is paying into this process with the unhealthy pool, because the entire pool that needs care is unhealthy, and it's an ever-growing pool of unhealthy people. So it's not even a perfect representation of like how nationalized medicine would work. Having said that, it was illegal until recently for even the VA to engage in bargaining at the point of bulk purchase. Please understand how fucking psychotic this country is. For Europeans that are tuning in, think about how fucking nutty that is, okay? It is so crazy. Whereas every other country on the planet literally engages in bulk purchase at the point of any pharmaceutical entering the market. This is the reason why American drugs are 10x the cost of drugs elsewhere.
The lowest price that they charge other companies. Now, if implemented, this would likely have the largest impact on drugs covered by Medicare and that are administered in a doctor's office. But the White House not releasing any other details this morning, and implementing this could be very complicated, Michael.
All right, Rachel Scott, thank you so much.
We start with a Fox News alert. The United States and China have reached an agreement.
Anyway, one of the funniest Trump still got it moments was when he was talking about price caps potentially. And, I hate to fucking give it to the guy whose admin, falsely detained me at the goddamn airport. But, I call balls and strikes, as I said in my detention interrogation, whatever you want to call it. He still got it. Okay. He still got that fastball, baby. Look, this is a fantastic example of a man who still got it. This 56-second moment. Let's take a look.
I mean, I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight.
Highly neurotic, seriously overweight.
He takes the fat shot.
He takes the fat shot.
And he called me up. And he said, President, he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect. But he's a rough guy, smart guy, very successful, very rich. I wouldn't even know how we would know this, but because he's got comments. Said, President, could I ask you a question? What? I'm in London, and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said, it's not working. I just paid $88. And in New York, I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on?
Dude, fucking amazing. No notes. 10-10. Also, the other side of this story that I find insane is that, like, these fucking global multinational conglomerate owning billionaires are shocked at the price disparity in the European markets for what I already explained to you, which is socialized medicine, an important aspect of socialized medicine. It's like, really? That's what it took for you to comprehend that, like, shit is incredibly fucked up in America? Like, how? Like, what, are you that stupid? This is the type of story that reminds me that some of these guys are not like as, I don't want to say they're not as evil, because their output is still pretty evil, but they're more stupid than they are deliberately evil, okay? Because you operate under the assumption that, like, everyone is aware of these things that I'm aware of, that you're aware of, right? And then you encounter a story like this and you're like, what the fuck? Like, how is this news to you, man? How is this fucking news to you? God damn, how'd you become a fucking billionaire? How? How is this possible? Like, what a perfect demonstration that meritocracy is just a lie, okay? It's just an abject fucking lie that you can have a guy who is a multi-billionaire, a titan of commerce and industry, be this oblivious to just basic amenities offered by social democracies. Like, that's insane. Oh my God. It is crazy. It is crazy. I always forget that people in positions of power are just as stupid as people who are fucking YouTube commentary slop tubers, okay? Like, I sometimes fail for the position of authority fallacy, because deep down inside, I also, I guess, have some kind of commitment to institutions and their infallibility. So I assume that these guys are sharks and they're smart, and actually they're presenting themselves as like oblivious, but in fact they are completely aware of the unjustifiable structures that they have played a role in cementing. And then you hear a story like this and you're like, oh no, they're just dumb. Like, they're actually fucking dumb. They're actually fucking oblivious. And it blows my goddamn mind. Like, how did you live for as long as you did and become a titan of industry, a commerce giant, and just completely remove yourself from normal day-to-day existence that cause you to be this oblivious to the basic things that social democracies afford? Wow. Incredible. Would I be canceled if I named the person he's talking about? Wait, what? I want to know. I wonder, X-based? I mean, why would they know? Elon for sure? I doubt that it's Elon. Trump is likely referring to Elon Musk. No, I don't think it's Elon. It's not Elon. It's funny to think it probably is, but I don't think it's Elon Musk. There are a lot of people that are on Ozempic in the admin, so it could be any number of people. It could be any number of, like, Trump-adjacent billionaires, too. There's a fuck ton of people that are taking Ozempic now. What do you think, like, happened to Mike Pompeo? You know what I mean? Or even like a Bill Barr. Like, they all have lost hundreds of pounds. Collectively, they've lost like 1,000 fucking pounds. How do you think that happened over the course of 1 year? Fat shot. Do you take Ozempic? No, but I fucking probably should after this goddamn trip to France. Holy shit, I ate so many baguettes. Oui. It's actually pretty nutty how much weight I've gained. I don't even know. You've been ousted? What is this? Rumors are true. We have replaced Hassan Piker effectively immediately. This was not an easy decision to make, but ultimately, yeah, that's true. I'm no longer a part of the podcast. Fear End. I'm no longer a part of the Fear End podcast. Defending rights and dissent. Our policy director, Chip Gibbons, on the detention of streamer Hassan the Hun. We are deeply disturbed that CBP is stopping political commentators at the border to interrogate them about the First Amendment protected activities. Such an abuse of power is an affront to press freedom. Hell yeah. I don't know why the fuck they did that. It's so dumb. I still think about that. I assume it was so that they can just, like, I assume it's so that they can say, like, that I tell the tale, and then, like, there's more of a chilling effect on speech. But I feel like this is going to backfire on them. You know what I mean? Like, why the fuck would I get intimidated by this? You know what I mean? I'm one of the worst people to do this to, especially because I'm a high profile person. Like, people are going to fucking write about this. Do you weight gain quickly? Yes. Is there a chance you're overreacting and this was a normal process? Or maybe not, but the people reacting to it? Yeah, it's a totally normal process to stop someone and ask them if how they feel about Donald Trump, an American citizen, at the point of entry into the fucking country. Do you think it's a normal process, chatter? Like, they didn't ask me. They had nothing. They had no reason to stop me. I'm a U.S. citizen walking into my own country. What the fuck are you talking about? It's the least normal thing you can do. It wasn't normal when they were doing it to like random Afghan nationals with American citizenship, but it's certainly not normal to do it to an American citizen. You know what I mean? I traveled internationally and was asked a few questions. I was like 15 years old. What? Bro, the questions that they asked me were not normal questions. They were all directly related to protected First Amendment activities, okay? As a political commentator, it wasn't a random stop either. Asking me about fucking Twitch bans and shit. Have you been in contact with Hamas? Do you think that Hamas's resistance is honorable? Do you think Hamas's resistance is good? You know what I mean? You think these are fucking normal questions to ask a random person that they randomly stopped? Do you think that's what happened? Like, that's crazy. Anyway. Yeah, also, they didn't like stop me. They literally took me to a detention area.
To slash tariffs on each other's goods, complete with a 90-day pause for future negotiations.
Lucas Thomason is live in Saudi Arabia ahead of President Trump's visit there with the details. Good morning, Lucas. What can you tell us?
Well, good afternoon from Riyadh, guys. Before President Trump arrives here in Saudi Arabia tomorrow morning, big news on the trade front. A trade deal has been announced with China, an agreement to slash tariffs.
People are going to try and minimize it now to pretend these things aren't happening. I know. All of the media is going to write about it. Meanwhile, all the slop tubers are going to be like, oh, it's fake. It's normal part of the process. It's perfectly normal, perfectly valid. More of it should happen. He should go to CCOT. You know what I mean? He should go to fucking CCOT, actually. He's a terrorist. Did you say you don't like Donald Trump as you believe? Yes, I did. And on the question of Hamas and the Houthis, I kept saying they're recognized as terrorist organizations by the State Department. That's what just kept repeating that over and over again. And whenever they asked me about like how do you see an end to Israel's war in Gaza or whatever, I was like, I don't care. I'm on the side of humans. I'm on the side of humanity. I'm on the side of fucking civilians not dying, over and over again. I have global entry, by the way, which means that like the DHS is aware of me to begin with. Like, I got stopped at global entry, not even like regular entry into the country, global entry.
Here's President Trump's trade rep Jamieson Greer speaking in Geneva.
We come to agreement that our reciprocal tariff rate will go down to 10% on the United States side, so it goes down 115%. We enter into a 90-day pause period for negotiations, which both the Chinese and the United States are very committed to. And the Chinese on their side also go down 115% to 10%, and they remove the countermeasures that they have in place.
So tariffs are being slashed, and here's President Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent speaking alongside Greer in Geneva.
Neither side wants a decoupling. And what had occurred...
That's weird. That's news to me, because it felt like this entire process was so that we would do a decoupling. You should have live streamed it. Chatter, it's a fucking Faraday cage. When you go into the interrogation room, it's a Faraday cage. There's no service in there. Yeah. I like that these guys are like, there's no decoupling. We didn't mean that when we said it over and over again. And when we made those demands to our trade partners, that was just a joke. We were just memeing about that.
With these very high tariffs, as Ambassador Greer said, was the equivalent of an embargo, and neither side wants that. We do want trade. We want more balanced trade, and I think that both sides are committed to achieving that.
Now, after European leaders traveled to Ukraine over the weekend to support a U.S.-led 30-day ceasefire effort to begin today, it was supposed to, Russian President Vladimir Putin appeared to stall, holding a hastily arranged press conference early Sunday morning, about 3 a.m. local in Moscow, to propose something different. A meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Istanbul, an offer President Trump says Zelensky should accept, posting, quote, President Putin of Russia doesn't want to have a ceasefire agreement with Ukraine, but rather wants to meet on Thursday in Turkey to negotiate a possible end to this bloodbath. Ukraine should agree to this immediately. At least they will be able to determine whether or not a deal is possible, and if it is not, European leaders and the U.S. will know where everything stands and can proceed accordingly. I'm starting to doubt Ukraine will make a deal with Putin, who's too busy celebrating the victory of World War II, which could not have been won, not even close, without the United States of America. Have the meeting now. And Zelensky, responding to Putin's offer, said, quote, "We await a full and lasting ceasefire starting from tomorrow," meaning today, Monday, to provide the necessary basis for diplomacy. There is no point in prolonging the killings, and I will be waiting for Putin in Turkey on Thursday. Personally, I hope that this time the Russians will not look for excuses. Now, here's President Trump on the India-Pakistan ceasefire mediated by the White House, led by Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The president posting, quote, "While not even discussed, I'm going to increase trade substantially with both of these great nations. Additionally, I'll work with you both to see..."
He's trying to put W's on the board so bad. Probably not a Faraday cage. They use jammers. Okay, whatever. Jammers.
If, after a, quote, 1,000 years, a solution can be arrived at concerning Kashmir. God bless the leadership of India and Pakistan on a job well done. So President Trump will be arriving here in Saudi Arabia tomorrow.
You are so canceled for comparing Israel to India to Israel. Suck my dick, dude. Canceled by what? I'm over here getting canceled by the fucking federal government, dude. What are you talking about? Oh my God, dude. Shut the fuck up, please.
Tomorrow to begin the signing of billions of dollars worth of deals. And before he leaves the White House this morning, guys, the president will be sitting down to sign an executive order to lower the cost of prescription drugs. Guys?
Lucas, it's almost impossible to think that we're looking at 5 major stories at one time. Right from the region the president's about to go to, right?
There's no question, Brian. Very busy day yesterday when these were all announced. And also something to look at on this trip is Syria. You know, the Trump administration wants to keep Iran out of Syria, doesn't want it to be a forward operating base like it was for 50 years under the Assad regime. That's one more thing. So maybe we're up to 6 now, Brian. But President Trump's going to arrive for tomorrow. They're expecting billions of dollars worth of deals to be announced, including artificial intelligence and, of course, arms sales as well.
Yeah, I'd rather not be a Russian hub either. That would certainly help. Appreciate it, Lucas.
It's incredible what President Trump has done over the weekend. He brokered that India-Pakistani ceasefire. He got Zelensky and Putin to go to the table. Putin said, "I want to..."
Why didn't you stand on your principles more firmly when questioned at the border instead of opting to dodge the questions? I missed the beginning of the stream. Can you explain detail your detention? Do you stand on your principles and just say the cause of Hamas are honorable? Did you say you don't like Donald Trump as you believe? Why didn't you stand on your principles more firmly instead of trying to dodge the question? This actually reminds me of Russia now. You can no longer say what you believe in. Even if it's a great cause, you will be imprisoned. Why didn't you stand on your principles? I love Redditors so much, dude. Yeah, I should have debated him further, which I did. Unironically, I did. Is this your interrogator? I think dealing with dumbasses in my chat and drama baiters in my chat have actually trained me for this very moment. Like having to constantly engage with debate lords makes it easy work to deal with like a fucking ICE or CBP guy. You know what I mean? They're having a rough time because they wanted to punch the air and celebrate that you got held, but realized, no, wait, that's fucking terrible optics. So they're coping so hard. Yeah. If I was Ethan Klein, I would be like, Ethan is the reason why I got fucking stopped by Customs and Border Patrol. Like, I'd make a YouTube video complaining about how Ethan Klein directly called Customs and Border Patrol on me. No evidence whatsoever necessary. You know, my way or the highway. If you don't actually agree with me, then you love that I got detained. CBP. I literally think he is. Why do you think they had specific questions about your bans and shit? What are you, fucking crazy? They had those specific questions because I'm sure I have a fucking document somewhere in the Department of Homeland Security ready to fucking rip at any moment of detention or apprehension. Yeah, they have a bunch of they have a bunch of notes to hit. What was shocking is that would that would be a part of the questioning for ICE or Department of Homeland Security. Like that in and of itself is shocking, because it's like they're getting their notes from fucking Redditors and Reddit drama, which is crazy.
I meet with you, Zelensky, on Thursday, and President Trump encouraged Zelensky to do that on Truth Social, and then they both agreed. And then also the U.S. and China trade deal. Lucas didn't mention that the 20% duties on Chinese imports relating to fentanyl will remain in place, meaning the total tariff on China stands at 30%.
And then, of course, you got the last living American hostage as
Absolutely.
well. That has finally been negotiated, that he's going to be released. So, I mean, he's firing on all cylinders. Maybe we finally get the market.
Yeah, same way they used Twitter to bomb that quarry in Yemen. Exactly. It actually is shocking that they would, like, CENTCOM using fucking random Twitter OSINT people to find like priority targets is also shocking. Just like this shit.
Markets are responding positively to this trade deal being done. It's a framework. There's still more negotiation to go, but it's a step in the right direction.
So, you know, a lot of times when they come out of meetings, they have different interpretations of the meetings. And I was just seeing, I listened to the presser live at 3 in the morning. And then it was hard hearing all the audio, so I was just jotting down hand notes. And then I'm listening to the Chinese delegation. They had one soundbite, and he sounded just as positive. You know what it shows? All the manufacturing, the trouble they have, making their payments, getting people unemployment. The fact is, a lot of these cargo ships are leaving with nothing on them because the U.S. is canceling their orders. They came to deal. And you know what I also like? Not like, they caved first, they caved second. They said that it is just, hey, we're at 145, 125. Now we're at 30 and 10. And these are some of the details. And one of the things that Scott Bessent said in particular, China brought up to them, we have not had talks about trade in 4 years. The also thing that they brought up too is he says, you guys got to become a consumer nation. All you do is send stuff out.
Right.
Now we have $295 billion of trade imbalance. It's gone up 5% this year, 40% over the last 5 years. It is unsustainable. Of course we're in this spot right here, right now. The question is, why wasn't there more of an urgency before?
And then also the hostage to be released. It's Eden Alexander. We've talked to his family before on this show. He was held for 550 days. And this is thought to be a gesture because our president is going to the Middle East for the week. And this was a gesture from Hamas to say, we're going to send home an American.
So you got the president firing on all cylinders with all these major international and domestic stories, but the Democrats are still.
Are you coming back to France in the future? Yes. I will be back in France for GP Explorer that my friend Squeezy Lucas is putting together. I'm going to be the American host of this international event that is going to be televised on French television, and it's going to be a massive event. So yeah, I will be in France for that. Unless I'm in jail at that point. If I'm not in jail, I will be there, okay?
Disarray.
Right.
Yes, I will be hosting it alongside Pokimane.
Almost everything they said on the Sunday shows is null and void because everything's been moving forward. But what I thought was interesting is, as far as Netanyahu says, I didn't give up anything to get Alexander back. So Witkoff just arrived, I saw in the Jerusalem Post about an hour ago. Yeah. So what's he going to say? He's going to clue them in. Now, Israel and the U.S. are a little bit disjointed now because we cut a deal with the Houthis not to bomb us, but they continue to go after. Israel says, we wish we would have known about that ahead of time. This hostage thing, I'm not sure they were clued in this time, but they do plan on going in full bore into Gaza and holding land this time. But it would be good, I think, for the world community to get some aid in there. It would, at the very least, just get some humanitarian aid to the areas that we told the Palestinians to evacuate to.
There's Eden's picture. His mom found out on Mother's Day her son's coming home.
What a gift.
Right.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page.
Zelensky challenges Putin to meet in person for peace talks.
Russia and Ukraine are edging closer towards the negotiating table, but points of contention remain. In a post on social media, Volodymyr Zelensky called for a halt in fighting before any direct talks, before adding,
I will be waiting for Putin in Turkey on Thursday, personally. Turkey, not only at the table, Turkey is the table. Once again, don't you have to go soon, big dog? Yes, I will be making my way to the university in a little bit, and we will of course be breaking down we will, of course, be breaking down the whole thing while that's happening. So you should take the red line. Chicago has great public transit. I will not be taking the red line to go to University of Chicago because I have a car. The university has hired a car service. Everybody, please stop trying to fucking manage my. Please stop trying to backseat produce. I am a 33-year-old man. Okay, this is a professional event. I will be bringing a shit ton of bags with me to this professional event. I have all of my equipment. We will be breaking down the equipment here in a little bit. Okay, please stop. Don't know why you guys do this. Okay, I don't understand it. You can't help yourselves.
That he would be waiting for Putin in Turkey on Thursday personally. Afterwards, he doubled down on his message during his nightly address.
Tomorrow, we expect a ceasefire. This proposal is on the table, a full and unconditional ceasefire, long enough to provide the necessary basis for diplomacy, which can bring peace much closer.
Yes, I know the Chicago Jewish Coalition will be there to protest. I know. They've said that they will be doing a counter demonstration or something. I know. I am familiar. As far as I understand, there was no. That's an external group, by the way, and not even a part of the school. And also, there's an external group. It's not even a part of the school. And from what I understand, there wasn't any like internal dissent from school groups.
But the likelihood of a truce before talks was diminished earlier on Sunday. In a press conference, Russian President Vladimir Putin effectively rejected a European ultimatum for a ceasefire, before suggesting Kyiv and Moscow representatives meet in Turkey. US President Donald Trump then weighed in, urging Zelensky to accept.
Ukraine should agree to this immediately. At least they will be able to determine whether or not a deal is possible. And if it is not, European leaders and the US will know where everything stands and can proceed accordingly.
The unconditional 30-day ceasefire was put forward in Kyiv on Saturday by Polish, British, French and German leaders, and received backing from the United States and the European Union. They told Moscow to accept or receive a fresh wave of sanctions. The group reportedly spoke again on Sunday night before French President Emmanuel Macron released a statement insisting on the necessity of a ceasefire to allow a Russian-Ukrainian meeting to take place at the highest level.
I mean, I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant business.
We already covered this part, which was incredible.
Some prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 50 to 80
Fat
to
shot.
90%.
Great big fat man told him Ozempic is not working. Oh, Zhijing, ex-editor of CCP tabloid Global Times. This is a significant victory for China in preserving the principles of equality and mutual respect. So far, no other country has reached such equal negotiation terms with the U.S. An equal agreement between China and the U.S. is a victory not only for China, but also for international trade rules and the rightful order. The China-U.S. agreement is a model and will undoubtedly inspire other countries to defend their rights. Old Hu refers to himself, gives a big thumbs up to China's negotiation team. I'm proud of the unity and resolve shown by the Chinese government and people over the past month. It is a true embodiment of, I am not going to read that. I don't know how to read that. Where collective will forms an unbreakable fortress. I take pride in the courage and resilience this nation has displayed in the face of coercion. Treatler writes, screaming. Oh, this is breaking. Trump officially maintains 120% cheap goods tax on China, hitting Shein and Temu per Axios. Yeah. Why do you only own gas cars and refuse to use the red line? Because I fucking love destroying the planet. I don't own gas cars. I have an EV. Labubus are good. All the TikTok girlies are screaming. Yeah. No more Temu, no more Shein. But Labubus will not get hit with a tariff, I don't think. Cutie paid 130% in fees last week for Deco. L Nerd should have waited for JD Pon Don. Oh, speaking of Chinese EVs, I got into my first BYD Seal. I got into my first BYD in France, and I think it's all right. It's not like, it wasn't all the rage that I thought it was, but it's like the most basic model, I think. So it was fine, but it was like, you know, It's affordable. That's the point. Yeah, the seal is like the cheap one, I think. Retract that statement. I mean, it was all right. It was like cool, but it wasn't like, it didn't actually blow me away, you know? Hassan, can you please talk about the Houthis at U Chicago today? Maybe. Bro got questioned by ICE one time and is now shitting on China. Yeah, that's what it is. I'm famously not a stubborn and brutally honest person, and I'm just demonstrating that regardless. Hold on. I need to start breaking down the fucking stream shit. Was everything computer? Everything was computer.
Will either abide by this principle voluntarily or will use the power of the federal government to ensure that we are paying the same price as other countries. To accelerate these price restrictions and reductions, my administration will also cut out the middlemen. We're going to totally cut out the famous middlemen. Nobody knows who they are, middlemen. I've been hearing the term for 25 years, middlemen. I don't know who they are, but they're rich. That I can tell you. We're going to cut out the middlemen. And
someone said, what the hell is wrong with his nose? I don't know. His face looks extra fucked up, and I don't know what that's about. I noticed that too, though. It's weird. Marge? He said he's here, but I don't know if he's in the room or not, and I just didn't see him.
Facilitate the direct sale of drugs at the most favored nation price directly to the American citizen. So we're cutting out, Bobby, the middlemen. It's so important, right? You got to do that. They're worse than the drug companies. They don't even make a product, and they make a fortune.
They don't make a product.
So today, Americans spend.
This is also the most fucked up thing. Trump being a fake friend to the EU, as always, saying that the European Union is in many ways nastier than China is crazy work. Okay, he is cooking the EU with these trade agreements, and then also shitting on them aggressively. What's good? Where's the bag? Oh, word. All right. Well, let's start the bag and then switch over to the bag, and then we'll stream the process of us breaking down the stream and putting it in the other bag, in the streaming bag, and then we'll move on, because the car is supposed to be here at 4, which is so early. Yeah, it's like overkill. I'm gonna tell David to come later. Like, tell the car to like leave at 4:30 or something. I think that should be better, right? Because what the fuck are we going to do on college campus? I don't want to be on the campus. I don't know. What about traffic? Chatters, it's a 30-minute. It is a 30-minute fucking drive, dude. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I don't know exactly where it is. Do you have the address? Can you look it up? You mean you don't want to interview college kids? No, I don't want to be there. Yeah, it's fucking 24 minutes away. I don't want to be there. Chicago's busy this time. Yeah, it's 24 minutes away, okay? I don't want to be on campus ahead of time and then like invite more controversy than is necessary, if that makes sense. And I want to keep covering the news. I have this one. Yeah. I think this one is better because it doesn't wobble and you can put it on the ground. But this one is good enough, isn't it? Yeah. It says 24 minutes now. At 4:30, we'll say 50 minutes. Okay. 40,000 micro backseat drivers.
70% more for prescription drugs than we spent in the year 2000. Think of that. Our country has the highest drug prices anywhere in the world by sometimes a factor of 5, 6, 7, 8 times. It's not like they're slight.
So you're not going to do an encampment? No, dude, I'm not. No, I'm going to a fucking speaking engagement. Goddamn, chatters. Holy shit.
Higher. They're 6, 7, 8 times. There are even cases of 10 times higher.
Y'all are, I've realized, unironically, y'all are fucking more annoying than the ICE agent at the detention. Like, you are literally, I prefer that guy. I prefer having a fucking conversation with that guy who holds my freedom in his fucking hands than some of you dumb fucks in the chat. Oh my God. Seriously, fucking micromanagers. Oh my Lord, shut the fuck up.
So that you go 10 times more expensive for the same drug, that's big numbers. Even though the United States is home to only 4% of the world's population, pharmaceutical companies make more than 2/3 of their profits in America. So think of that. With 4% of the population, the pharmaceutical companies make most of their money, most of their profits from America. That's not a good thing. Now, I think, by the way, pharmaceutical, I have great respect for these companies and for the people that run them. I really do. And I think they did one of the greatest jobs in history for their company, convincing people for many years that this was a fair system. Nobody really understood why, but I figured it out. For years, pharmaceutical and drug companies have said that research and development costs were what they are, and for no reason whatsoever, they had to be borne by America alone. Not anymore, they don't. This means American patients were effectively subsidizing socialist healthcare systems in Germany, in all parts of the European Union. They were the toughest of all. They were nasty. And I see that. I see that with trade, too. European Union is, in many ways, nastier than China. Okay? And we've just started with them. Oh, they'll come down a lot. You watch.
Mr. President, what is Mr. price controls?
Say it?
How do you respond to the fact that this...
It's not price control. No, no. What was price control is before. If you want to talk about price control is what they were doing. They were making us pay. They set a price, and they said, here's what we're going to pay. And anything else, charge America. Because at that time, they had a very stupid president, and it really went crazy during the last 4 years. And remember this, the Democrats are the ones that allowed this to happen. They were the ones that were the protector of this pricing system. And I think it's going to be very hard. You'll have to ask Democrats, are they going to vote against the one great, big, beautiful deal that's being negotiated now, tax cuts, etc., when now on top of the tax cuts and regulation cuts, all the things, now you're going to say that the price of your medicine is going down by 60, 70, 80%. You're going to vote against it? I think a lot of Democrats are going to be forced to do something that their leaders are going to beg them not to do, and that's vote for the bill. I don't see how they can vote against it. How can they vote against it when drug prices, drugs and pharmaceuticals are going to be down 70, 80%?
I'm going to turn to the controversy now over President Trump preparing to accept a luxury jumbo jet from the government of Qatar. The plan is for it to serve as Air Force One, then for Trump's personal use. It's raising serious legal and national security questions. Chief Washington correspondent John Carl broke the story. He joins us now. Good morning, John.
Good morning, George. This is a move that is already raising serious ethical, legal, and national security questions. But the Trump administration is poised to accept that luxury jumbo jet, which has a value estimated at $400 million, as a gift from the government of Qatar. Sources familiar with the proposal say that the aircraft would be used by President Trump as a new Air Force One and then transferred to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation shortly before he leaves office. It would likely be the most valuable gift ever given to the U.S. government from a foreign power. Multiple sources familiar with the proposal say this is the airplane, a 13-year-old Boeing 747-8, known as a Flying Palace. It was toured by Trump himself back in February. The aircraft is larger and significantly more luxurious than the current Air Force One, an older version of the 747 that has been in operation since 1990. The Qatari plane has 2 fully furnished floors, complete with plush carpet, leather couches, and 2 bedrooms. The plane's current value.
The only time where I say, yeah, based. Also, it's such a funny scheme because obviously you can't just like have the president fly around in a regular commercial jet or anything like that. It has to get significantly beefed up, right? And they are going to do incredible things to this plane. The company that will basically take it over and completely recreate it to look like Air Force One. And then all of those big upgrades, the tens of millions of dollars on an already incredibly expensive fucking plane, will then be gifted to, I believe, the Trump Library at the end of Trump's presidency. Now, that's, of course, if he actually ends up, if he even ends up leaving the presidency at all. But it is an incredible scheme for Donald Trump to have, for the first time ever, as a citizen post-presidency, a fucking Air Force One replica. That is, why don't you call the gifted airplane as it is a Trojan horse? What do you mean a Trojan horse? They are doing what every other fucking leadership has done, every other country has done, which is bribing the Trump administration. They are openly bribing the Trump administration. It's not a Trojan horse if the government is openly doing this. Like, it's only a Trojan horse if you have some other nefarious purpose and it's not transparently a bribe. Security reasons? Yeah, dude. Yes, the Air Force is not going to go up and down to try to figure out if it's bugged, dude. You're right. I'm 100% sure they bugged the plane. Guys, you think if you have this attitude that they don't? Like, you think security officials are going to not look at every fucking inch of this goddamn plane? They will literally disassemble and reassemble it in its entirety. Okay? What are you talking about? Also, I don't give a shit if it's bugged into oblivion. Like, what do you mean? Wow, for once, it's not Israel that's like directly bugging our administration. It's now another country. Okay, great. Who cares?
It was estimated at $400 million, but it will need millions more worth of modifications to meet the Air Force requirements to operate as the presidential aircraft.
It raises many, many eyebrows to have this sort of deal at all, to be accepting Air Force One from a foreign government.
Under the terms of the proposed gift, sources tell ABC the plane would be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation no later than January 1st, 2029. That's shortly before Trump leaves office. The Constitution prohibits anyone holding...
Why didn't you talk about the price caps? I want to know your perspective on it. I did earlier before Trump revealed it. It's good. I love price caps. It's great. Fantastic. More of it, please.
...federal office from accepting a personal gift from a foreign head of state. But sources say Attorney General Pam Bondi has concluded that this gift is, quote, legally permissible because the plane is not being given to an individual, but rather to the U.S. Air Force and then to Donald Trump's foundation.
Yeah. No, it's totally different. He will have it gifted to his foundation after he's done being president. Yeah, Bloomberg already wrote about it. I saw political pundit Hassan Piker questioned by U.S. Customs at airport. Yeah, the articles are rolling in for all the article heads. Let's see. Let's do the paywall. Let's do paywall remover. Working on video now, Lamau. What do you mean? Here you go. I was able to breach the paywall. Political pundit Hassan Piker questioned by U.S. Customs at airport. Hassan Piker, an online political commentator, was stopped and questioned by U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents after returning from the country from France. He said on his Twitch live stream Monday. Piker, a vocal critic of Israel's Palestine policy, said he was taken to a private room at Chicago O'Hare's International Airport on Sunday and asked about his political views. Piker has millions of followers on YouTube, Twitch, and X who listen to his wide-ranging commentary on American politics and social issues. While describing the overall interaction with agents as cordial, Piker said an officer asked him about his views on President Donald Trump, whether he's been in contact with Hamas, the Houthis, or Hezbollah. The officer, he said, kept saying stuff like, do you like Hamas? Do you support Hamas? Do you think Hamas is a resistance group? Piker said he responded that he is on the side of civilians and a pacifist. Piker is a U.S. citizen born in New Jersey who said he's enrolled in the government's global entry program, which normally expedites travel. The CBP didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Piker was traveling to the University of Chicago to speak Monday at its Institute of Politics. Yep. Sorry you didn't get better Midwest hospitality. It's all good.
Are calling the proposed gift illegal and are demanding an investigation. I don't know who needs to hear this. Senator Bernie Sanders posted on X,
retweeted this.
But no, Donald Trump cannot accept a $400 million flying palace from the royal family of Qatar. Not only is this farcically corrupt, it is blatantly unconstitutional. In response to the outcry, Trump confirmed he plans to accept the airplane, calling it, quote, a gift free of charge of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One, temporarily in a very public and transparent transaction. In addition to the obvious...
I mean, it is definitely quid pro quo, by the way. That's so stupid. Like, it's just, yes, it is transparent bribery. That is precisely what's happening. That is what's going on.
ethical concerns, there are significant national security concerns about this, about using a plane given by a foreign government as Air Force One. Qatar is considered an American ally, but it is also an ally of Iran and China and even Hamas. The massive plane would need to be...
Qatar is the Switzerland of the Gulf. Okay, that's it. That's what it is. And there needs to be a Switzerland of the Gulf because obviously there needs to be a place for, these kinds of talks to take place. Doha is that place. So everyone that makes hay about Qatar in this regard is being ridiculous. Like they're like, oh, they're aligned with everybody. It's like, yes, they are literally, they play that role. They have American base. They're a major ally to the United States of America. They have Turkish military station in Qatar too, if I'm not mistaken. They are firmly on, you mean Oman? No, Doha is where a lot of these fucking talks take place. Oman is where some of the other talks take place, like the Houthis one took place in Oman.
Thoroughly vetted for listening devices and tracking devices that can be incredibly small and hidden just about anywhere on that massive aircraft. George?
So, John, among all the questions you raise, above everything else, this is not going to be free of charge. It's going to cost millions, if not tens of millions.
Israeli media reveals roots by Qatar funds to Netanyahu's inner circle. Representative Richie Torres seeks Inspector General review of any Trump acceptance of the Qatari jet gift. Yeah, I'm 100% in support of the big beautiful boy Donald here. For the record, like he gets to have a jet if he wants to. If this leads to Donald Trump taking a more favorable position to Palestinians in this process, I do not give a fuck. Yeah, great. Keep doing corruption, King. Fuck it. Who cares?
Dollars to retrofit it for it to serve as Air Force One, and of course, American taxpayers are going to pay that.
Yeah.
What? Why don't you talk about Puerto Rico? I know there are people suffering all over the world. You speak about Americans and the effects Trump's policies will have, but we will be effective much more. Why the silence? You can't talk about us as a voting bloc, or when Trump talks about us, we're a colony. We can't vote. I'm going to stop reading all the fucking dumb chatters, dude. Like, I'm done. I don't know why I do this to myself. It's like, brother, what do you want me to do? There are a million different things happening every fucking day. Okay, I have to choose. I have to pick and choose. I'm sorry that I'm not talking about Puerto Rico every day. Holy fuck! What is the accusatory tone? Like, what is this? What is this accusatory tone that like I'm like specifically avoiding talking about Puerto Rico or something, or I'm not sufficiently covering the plight of Puerto Ricans for your liking? Yeah, I'm sorry. There's, I'm a one-stop shop, one-man operation. There's not really much I can do beyond it,
Absolutely, George. We'll have to be retrofitted to serve the Air Force requirements. And, George, also in this agreement, the transfer costs of going to the library will be paid for by the United States government.
Which means the taxpayers.
Yes, the taxpayers, yes.
John Carl, thanks very much, Michael.
And by the time it's done, it'll probably be time for him to be out of office. Okay, thank you, George.
On Qatar, has Qatar asked for anything in exchange for that $400 million luxury jumbo jet? And how can the American people be so sure that they will not in the future?
Well, I think what happens with the plane is that, we're very disappointed that it's taken Boeing so long to build a new Air Force One. We have an Air Force One that's 40 years old. And if you take a look at that compared to the new plane of the equivalent, stature at the time, it's not even the same ballgame. You look at some of the Arab countries and the planes they have parked alongside of the United States of America plane. It's like from a different planet. And it's close to 40 years old, might be more than 40 years old now. And we, when I first came in, I signed an order to get it built. I took it over from the Obama administration. They had originally agreed. I got the price down much lower. And then when the election didn't exactly work out the way that it should have, a lot of work was not done on the plane because a lot of people didn't know. They made change orders that were so stupid, so ridiculous. And it ended up being a total mess, a real mess. And when I came back, I said, by the way, what's going on?
We're gonna start breaking it down, chatters.
Well, sir, they're way behind, and they are. They're way behind. Yeah. They were way behind. Another mess that I inherited from Biden, and it's going to be a while before we get them. And I think Qatar who has really, we've helped them a lot over the years in terms of security and safety. I think they, and very, very nicely, and I have a lot of respect for the leadership and for the leader, Qatar. And I think they knew about it because they buy Boeings. They buy a lot of Boeings. And they knew about it. And they said, we would like to do something. And if we can get a 747 as a contribution to our Defense Department to use during a couple of years while they're building the other ones, I think that was a very nice gesture. Now, I could be a stupid person and say, oh, no, we don't want a free plane. We give free things out. We'll take one, too. And it helps us out because, again, we're talking about we have 40-year-old aircraft. The money we spend, the maintenance we spend on those planes to keep them tippy-top is astronomical. You wouldn't even believe it. So I think it's a great gesture from Qatar. I appreciate it very much. I would never be one to turn down that kind of an offer. I mean, I could be a stupid person and say, no, we don't want a free, very expensive airplane. But I thought it was a great gesture. And I think it was a gesture because of the fact that we have helped and continue to, we will continue to, all of those countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and others. We keep them safe. If it wasn't for us, they probably wouldn't exist right now. And I think this was just a gesture of good faith. And I don't get it. Someday it'll be like Ronald Reagan. They decommission them. You know, they get to a certain age, they decommission them. It'll go to my library. They're talking about going to my library in years out. But I thought it was a great gesture. And it's something that was done by Ronald Reagan. They actually decommissioned the plane and he put it in his library. And it actually has made the library, I think, a Boeing 707. It's actually made the library more successful, so it was good.
Do you plan to use the plane after you leave office?
No, I don't. No, it would go directly to the library after I leave office. I wouldn't be using it. No.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who view that luxury jet as a personal gift to you? Why not leave it behind?
You're ABC fake news, right?
Why not?
It's only ABC. Well, a few of you would. Let me tell you, you should be embarrassed asking that question. They're giving us a free jet. I could say, no, 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 don't give us, I want to pay you $1 billion or 400 million or whatever it is. Or I could say, thank you very much. You know, there was an old golfer named Sam Snead. Did you ever hear of him? He won 82 tournaments. He was a great golfer. And he had a motto, when they give you a putt, you say, thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. A lot of people are stupid. They say, no, no, I insist on putting it. And then they putt it and they miss it. And their partner gets angry at them. You know what? Remember that, Sam Snead. When they give you a putt, you pick it up and you walk to the next hole and you say, thank you very much.
Another Palestinian student activist was detained and threatened with deportation.
What a legend, dude. What a fucking legend. He's so crazy with it. Take the putt and say thank you. He's not wrong. Dems are pro losers, and this is why he wins. I mean, it is a very direct quid pro quo situation. Okay, he is currying favor, like he's giving favor to Qatar. Like that is what he's doing. There's no doubt in my mind. I just don't give a shit. Like that's it. Why you miss Iran? Because I was in France. Also, Donald Trump is to meet Islamist leader of Syria amid report a Trump tower could be built in Damascus as a part of a desperately needed investment. That's it. There you go. There you go. There you have it. More of that sweet deal making, baby. You want Donald Trump to take you off the terror watch list? You just got to build a fucking Trump tower. All it takes is one Trump tower, baby.
Damn, this guy's good.